on cruel ways for millennia. And in the same way, cows and goats that were domesticated provided excess milk for millennia. Mammals provide way more milk than the offspring that they produce need. So we can get into particular conversations about like the really fucked up ways that we do industrial meat farming, but just like anybody who's ever had a spouse or a significant other who's had a child who's pumped, or anybody who's ever raised animals who feed their young, they have more milk than they need. Intentionally, it's designed that way because we feed them at a level that is above what they could get if they're just foraging, so they're producing more milk than they actually need. All sorts of things, right? And another way that this happens, right, is if you're like, I worked on a farm for a long time where like sheep, if they have odd numbers of offspring, will reject the odd number. So if they have 2, they're fine. If they have 4, they're fine. But if they have 3 or they have 5, they'll kick off the odd one. Right? But they produce more milk than they need. So all milk drinking, all use of dairy products is not equivalent. It's not all based on animal rape. There has been excess milk available in domesticated farming for millennia. Something that came up more recently in the conversation is I don't think that we need to say that animals have moral status, which is usually like the term that's used in like animal ethics, for us to object to sport hunting that's superfluous. So like I don't think that we need to say, well, animals are like something that needs to have a moral status equivalent to humans, or even analogous to humans, or analogous to other conscious beings, for us to say like we could object to certain forms of sport hunting that are to excess, that are damaging to the environment, damaging to ecosystems, wiping out populations. We've had some conversations about like whether or not it's like, oh, well, if it goes extinct and it doesn't hurt humans, is that bad? I think you could mount some arguments that that's bad, even if it doesn't actively hurt us. But then I also heard something recently of like, oh, well, yeah, population of control, of course. Like that, of course, that makes sense. Population control, of course. I don't know why that's an of course thing. Like, okay, so we've fucked up the environment. We have an excess of deer. So in my home state of Tennessee, especially East Tennessee, we just like deer cause so many car accidents because we killed off a bunch of coyotes and we killed off a bunch of wolves, and we just don't have the natural things that regulate their population. And so some people are like, oh yeah, of course, population control hunting, that's fine. Why is that fine? Why is that an of course thing? Right? If they're conscious beings, if they have moral status, that's not an of course thing. Yeah, there's too many of them and it's causing all sorts of problems. So what? They're still conscious beings, maybe with moral status, maybe. So it's not an of course thing. We can't just say, oh yeah, of course we can hunt them. Like we've got to settle all of these other side conversations that we're having about whether they have moral status, whether they're conscious beings that we need to respect in some way, before we can just say, oh well, of course we can hunt them whether or not we're eating them. I personally do think, yeah, there's a clear difference between somebody who's like, yeah, I'm just going to go out with like, machine gun and gun down whatever wildlife I can, versus somebody who's going to, go out and hunt responsibly for population control and eat, those sorts of things. So, yeah, I have lots of thoughts, but we've gone all sorts of different ways. So I'll let other people.
Let's go to Turk and then Kobe.
Yeah, so you hinted a lot on the trophy hunter aspect there, because there are many countries in Africa, especially, that actually have tags allocated towards rhinos, elephants, lions, and other sorts of animals, specifically to the animals, because there's a conservation effort that's going on within those local ecosystems as well as countries in order to help keep the numbers in check, or to help instigate growth and whatnot. And you guys shun on the trophy hunters. The trophy hunters are just capitalizing what these countries and ecosystems are trying to help promote. So you can't make them the enemy all of the time. There could be some trophy hunters that are bad. I'll admit to that. But the entire point of being a trophy hunter is to get legally accessible tags by the local municipality in order to do that. So you can't make everyone that hunts the bad guy, right? There's hunters like to conserve that which they hunt because they would like to hunt that more, and they have a vested interest in continuing that life cycle so they can hunt that more.
Isn't that a perverse
So
incentive?
we should establish a difference between hunting and poaching, right?
There's legally a distinction between that, yes. And those countries that give out those tags for legal hunting, they allow that kill to happen, and you have to actually go and communicate that kill to happen in order to not get prosecuted. But yes, poaching is the illegal hunting of that tag, and they unfortunately can't prosecute or catch those people most of the time.
And I think if you have the
that's why
authorization to
people-
kill an endangered animal, it
That's why
justifies
they've
it at
also
all.
hired
Like,
private security around certain rhinos to protect those rhinos,
Hold on.
and they'll
Like
give their
in
lives up for
elephants,
that.
elephant ivory is like really like it's something that people like.
They're
Eucharist you can respond, and then we'll go to Kobe.
Well, I was gonna say I think it. Yeah, like I think. Sorry, Turk is making some good points here. That there's lots of good research and public commentary on the topic of trophy hunting. Like there's I think ongoing debate about whether or not regulated trophy hunting is actually good for conservation, and there seems to be some evidence that it can be, where like local communities, local tribes that are actively working to conserve endangered species can sell off specific rights to hunt one of these creatures that maybe it's causing particular damage, or maybe
Can I
it's
cut you
just
off real
a
quick?
rare case. Yeah, go ahead.
This is in addition to what you're saying. So there are some lions that are overly aggressive to the entire population of what these countries and animal rights groups are trying to do. So it's like Kenya will say, get this one lion. Those trophy hunters will find that one lion and get it. And if they don't get it, they are then poaching and they get prosecuted.
Right. So similar to the conversation we were having about the dolphin article, it's like on the one hand, all of the proceeds and the meat from this are going back to the local community, and on the other hand, these licenses are expensive to hunt these animals, and those proceeds go back to contribute to conservation. So I don't know enough to say one way or another. I've just kind of like read bits and pieces here and there, kind of snatched up articles where I can, and it seems like, oh, maybe there's an argument to be made that regulated trophy hunting can actually be good for conservation. People who know more can dispute, but I think it relates back to the thing that kicked off this conversation, in the sense that it's like this is something that is supposedly good for the community and gives back to the people who live in this area and supports the conservation of certain endangered species. So
Let's go to Kobe.
I mean, like, I'll look into that more. I'd be interested to see, the research on that. I do got to say, I have much less faith in, say, like ZANU-PF, the government of Zimbabwe, than I am about like the government of like Kenya to decide what animals should and shouldn't do it. Like some governments in Africa are very corrupt, some are not. But I'll look into that. But this is what I wanted to ask, just kind of to the people that are a little bit more like into animal rights. It seems to me that like humanity requires a pretty heavy level of like animal exploitation to just exist. We've talked about stuff like medical research. A lot of animals die when it comes to like not just even suburbs, which are really bad, but cities and stuff. We do all sorts of things. It seems like if you want to, I understand that most people, and including people on the panel, will say like there's a gradient, and that's fair. But I feel like if you really want to be like pretty hardcore with this, you gotta or hardcore with the idea of like animal ethics, you gotta argue for some pretty big degrowth in human society. I don't know if we can be having medicine and modern medicine. I don't know if we can be having cars and highways and stuff if we're gonna be really caring about animal welfare. Because it seems like those things like require pretty heavy level or a heavy minimum animal exploitation. But that's it.
I think that's a red herring. I don't think that I don't think that there's going to be much of an argument about degrowth and the necessity of saying like what we need to do is have a Jane ideology of like non-harm to animals at all costs. Like I think we're gonna all pay some prices and make some sacrifices. But I think that I just think that at the end of the day, even Eucharist, you basically alluded to it, which is this idea of whether or not animals have moral value in the same way that human beings do, or in an equivalent way. And I think that for me, the one question in terms of really getting to the core of that is, why do human beings have moral value?
Because I'm a human being. That's the answer, and that's when the answer that 99% of most. That's the answer that most people are going to give. The actual.
Because I'm a human being.
Yeah. No,
What?
that's the answer.
What?
That's the answer that a vast majority
to
of
be
human
fair,
philosophy is based on.
Are you saying like your survival is important because it's literally your survival? compared to in other animals? Is that
Yeah,
what you
it's like again, like human beings are a social species. The mutual flourishing of human beings is like literally the imperative of any member of the human species.
But that's the naturalistic fallacy. I don't care about
I'm
that.
sorry.
That's not
I'm
the
sorry.
naturalistic fallacy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Sorry.
The Earth
Yeah,
would
you underlined my
continue to
sentence.
exist if people were not around.
But this is what I got to answer. If we agree that we just have a gradient, that some animals, it's okay for some animals. I'll kill a mosquito if it bites me, but I'm not going to do it if a spider's in my house, or whatever. I feel like we're doing like the same argument that like Big Papa Fascist's wife said, where she's like, I just find gay marriage gross. We just find some animal exploitation gross, and when it gets gross, we stop doing it, and we're just going to argue about what's gross and what's not
I'm
gross.
not sure. I think that's a gross description of what we're trying to do.
Go
We're
into
trying to find
Kobe's
that nice
fallacy.
line.
Personally,
AG, go into Kobe's fallacy. Kobe says
Nothing
he
wrong.
values human survival. You said, "Oh my God, that's a naturalistic fallacy, you fool." Go deeper into that, please.
His argument is that it's natural. It's the inevitable perspective of a human being to want to advance their interests and therefore the interests of their kind, which are human beings. And so it's easy to make that kind of distinction, or it is common or natural to do that, right? The fact that something is natural does not justify it, does not make it. That is not an argument for it. That is the example of the naturalistic fallacy. The naturalistic fallacy says X is natural or exists in nature, therefore it's valid. That's a fallacy.
But that's not what Kobe's saying.
I feel like if
Kobe's just saying. I don't think
we
Kobe's
all
saying.
agree.
Kobe's here.
No, I want to speak
Yeah.
for Kobe. Fuck Kobe.
I would say that the equivalent of what you're saying.
He has no moral worth.
Exactly. If I said humans need to eat, it's a biological imperative to eat food. You're saying, oh, that's a naturalistic fallacy. It is. I'm just saying it is a material reality that I am a Homo sapien. It is a material reality that there are other Homo sapiens, and that the common flourishing of me as Homo sapien is beneficial for myself and everybody else. And it seems that is the basis of like literally 99% of all philosophy. And so that's where I'm going with. If you want to say that's a naturalistic fallacy, okay, I'll take. I start with the naturalistic fallacy and I move forward. But I would argue that you have a naturalistic fallacy too, because you say that consciousness has value, and consciousness is just another aspect of reality. Well, again, it's arbitrary whether or not we value conscious or unconscious.
I'm adding something onto nature by saying that it has value. I have to create some kind of structure in which
like
I can justify that value. Your notion is that, well, it happens in nature, therefore it's valid.
Okay, but I don't think
I
feel like
even
it's
think
more
it's
of a
true.
hypothetical imperative, right?
AG,
What
can
he's saying is
you
us
explain the
humans.
difference there? It seems like you're doing the exact same thing Kobe's doing.
Yeah. You're
saying consciousness.
worse.
You're saying
With
consciousness is
extra
natural,
steps.
and that's inherently valuable. Kobe's saying no, my survival is natural, and the fact that we live in a world where we have to consume other things in order to live, whether it's plant material or animal material, you have to consume other things so that you can maintain this structured, ordered body. And Kobe's saying, I value that, and so therefore it's valid to me. And you're saying, no, wait. That's a naturalistic fallacy. What's not naturalistic fallacy is that consciousness is valuable, and that we should value that and recognize that in everyone, because that's also naturally occurring. It seems like you're doing the same thing.
I wouldn't.
You're choosing a property.
No. You're misunderstanding my position then, because my basis is not the fact that consciousness is naturally occurring, that it has value. That it's something else.
Okay.
It's not the fact that it occurs naturally, right? Like an asteroid occurs naturally. It doesn't inherently have the same kind of value as does, say, something that I would say has consciousness, even some modicum of consciousness. And that's where, as Kobe was talking about, we get the gradient. And so we can, I will be more than willing to say, we can place humanity at the top of this gradient. And we can say, let's go from humanity down.
But if we make the concession that humanity's at the top of the gradient, why can't Kobe's gradient just be, okay, everything that's not at that point is invaluable?
Because he would have to justify that position. And my claim is that I don't think that there's a good justification for that division. I think that it goes deeper.
But what's the good justification for the gradient? Like, why shouldn't anyone care about the gradient?
Yeah, what's even the justification for putting humanity at the top of the gradient?
All of that's open for discussion. I think that there is a discussion at that there is a gradient, and that we often, at least in terms of discussion, place human beings at the top of it is part of this discussion. And so one of the things that would be fruitful of the discussion is to say, should human beings be placed at the top of this? That's a good question. The second one is is there this gradient? And if there is this gradient, where does the gradient get down to the point that it's justifiable to kill them? Right? I think that's an important discussion. You might want to put it super high up in the sense that like human beings and nothing and everything below you can kill. You have to say why. And I would be very curious what it is that you think human beings have that distinguish them from every other kind of species, including like bonobos and other very close like human-like animals. Why you think that what is it that distinguishes human beings from others, such that you can justify this speciesist?
There's only one answer.
Well, the answer is very simple. I think. I mean, it's like Kobe said. I'm a human being.
That's not the answer.
Well, yes, promoting.
The distinguishing.
Wait, calm down. Control your impulses, please, Paul. Okay, I love you, but calm down, please. The next step is because I'm a human being and I'd like to promote my own well-being. I'd like to have a good life and not be murdered and not be raped or put into slavery or whatever. I'm going to promote the well-being of other human beings around me. Not all human beings. There's some human beings I just don't give a fuck about. Right? That's the truth. But I'm a human being, I'm a human being, and hold on, and I want to promote my own well-being, like I think most of you do, right? I'm not going to support policies of enslaving human beings around me, murdering people at random in the street, stealing from people, yada yada yada, right? Or eating people, right? Because I don't want to be eaten, and I understand if this is something that happens within my society, there's a pretty good chance it could happen to me or someone that I care about at some point. So I'm going to say, hey, that's a bad thing that can't happen here, right? And I really don't think it's more complicated than that. I think you're looking for a way to make it more complicated than that, but I think for like 99.99% of people, that's what it is.
Cool.
Also, I want to say I don't think it's naturalist. Yeah, I just want to say it's not naturalistic. What I think I would say is that we all agree that we want humans to be well flourishing. Therefore, we should promote that. That's not a naturalistic fallacy. That's basically saying, hey, that's a hypothetical imperative. I value X. You value X. We all value X. Therefore, we should do fucking X.
Mm-hmm. How does everyone making a claim that human life is the most important thing, but avoiding the very obvious thing about it, that if we don't protect a lot of these animals, a lot of them, it will lead to our extinction?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's going to lead to our extinction, then we shouldn't
exclusive.
do that, right?
Those ideas are not mutually exclusive. You can hold in the idea at the same time.
So you're saying we should not just kill innocent and bunch of random animals for fun and for trophies and just kill people?
That doesn't answer the question if they have a moral
imperative. That is the question.
That's
ecosystem. You answered it. Your moral answer is, I want humans to live.
Yes.
To do that, you have to keep the ecosystem alive.
Yep.
To do that, you cannot murder any animals you want.
Okay, so that's where the wrong step is. Yes, we have to keep the ecosystem
You're saying
alive.
You can kill any animals you want, and the ecosystem will be fine.
I'm saying you can kill animals and not affect the ecosystem. That's possible, is it not?
Well, there are some. I'll concede there are some. Okay, because I can't prove I can't prove that, so I'm not going to assume every animal on Earth is relevant. I said that earlier, but I'll backtrack a little bit just to concede that. But animals we're talking about. Nobody hunts ants. We're not talking about ants. People hunt large animals that are relevant to the ecosystem.
Sure.
Very important.
But if the population of stuff like dolphins or whales isn't decreasing, it's not an imminent threat to our ecosystem, right? If the population of a species is stable,
we don't know that. We don't know the chain effects of shrinking the population because they eat other things and that trickles down. Ecosystem means things are trickling. No scientist on Earth can claim he knows intricately enough to know mass killing here and mass killing there is affecting this how and that how and this. Nobody could claim that.
That's
so it needs
how
to
the
stop.
ecosystem works.
It needs to stop. Until some scientists can say, I can prove it's okay to just slaughter a bunch of mammals for what? For funsies and tradition?
Oh, can I ask you something? Okay,
so
what if we had sea farms? Right?
We do. There are.
Okay, we do have something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have like a sea farm, but for the dolphins, right? We had an enclosure.
Oh God, I would be against that personally. Yeah.
And then like we slaughtered them, like for meat or whatever, for whatever reason within this enclosure. Would that be fine with you?
No, because the effects of sea farming on the ocean are well documented. Industrial fishing is the number one polluting thing on the planet.
Okay, but this is a different argument. Saying that it causes pollution.
That's what you asked me, so I was
responding. Right, but what I'm saying is that has nothing to do with animal ethics. It has to do with the pollution. And
I'm talking human ethics. We're talking human ethics.
Yeah, would it still be
You're right. You're right.
beyond the pollution argument? Would it still be ethical? Is what Pan's trying to get to?
No, because it's ecosystem. It's beyond pollution. Beyond pollution, I can't.
They're saying, let's say it wasn't. Yeah, let's say it wasn't.
I don't know.
Like
I'm
what
not,
he's saying
I'm
is,
not
let's
studied
say
in the consciousness of animals.
No. But what he's saying is, what if we take some baby dolphins, move them away? Like, let's say we have this fucking artificial lake that we have these dolphins swim in. They're not connected to the fucking ecosystem. We just grow them there to fucking slaughter them. That's not going to affect the ecosystem.
If it was not affecting the ecosystem, if there was a way that was developed, then maybe my argument would have a whole lot less weight as far as taking care of the ecosystem. That's absolutely.
And I'd be totally fucking against that.
I would be against it too. Yes, but it would counter my argument about ecosystem. I believe it would be morally too, but I can't argue the morals.
That's that separation. There's these two separations.
I have to go to work here. I will come back because if this conversation is still going, I just have to say one last thing. Okay, something that got asked earlier that I really wanted to respond to. Somebody asked, "What's the difference between humans and other animals? What is this?" The answer is fucking nothing. We are just animals. It's a curse. One of my favorite authors, the god Thomas Ligotti, he wrote a book called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, and he said that our advanced consciousness is a fucking curse. We are not designed to have to make these fucking questions because there's no answer. There's no right. The jaguar bites into the fucking skull of the rhesus monkey, and the universe is dust. Nothing matters. Okay, that's the answer. Okay. I'm a human. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm an egoist who does a naturalistic fallacy, and I need to be better. But the answer is, I'm a human. I'm a Homo sapien. I want other Homo sapiens to flourish. I don't want to see cows being skinned alive, but I like eating meat. We should probably do things that cut down on pollution because it's better for everybody. I feel like that is like the answer that 90% of all humans are going to give. And maybe it's a naturalistic fallacy, but that's what I was going to say. I'm not. I feel like the comparisons to white supremacy is a little tedious. But
I agree with you. I agree with you. 90% of people would say that. I think 90% of people are wrong.
That's fine. Also,
give us a better reason,
Paul. Okay. People farm ants. I put it in the chat. I'll put it again. The Eat a Bug cookbook. 40 recipes for grasshoppers, spiders, centipedes, and their kin. Okay, people do it. People are eating bugs. Okay, people eat ants. So have a good night. I will back if we'll talk about this later.
Tobias is most spiteful. All right. Anyway, let's go. Let's go. Doobie, go ahead, and then I also want to go back to you, Chris, see what he has to say about all this.
Sure. So I have two hopefully simple questions. They're not simple. So KG, can you give me a better reason to put humans at the top of that gradient you mentioned? And secondly, can you give me a reason to care at all, to put any kind of moral weight at all on like the life of an ant? Why should I give a single fuck about it, like a black ant walking across the floor, or a red ant? Okay, let's not be racist. Like, why should I care? Give me a reason.
The best reason to put human beings at the quote unquote top of things is complexity at the end of the day. I think we are in some ways, at least from our own perspective, which is limited as it is, complex in a way that has allowed us to do what it is that we've done on Earth, which no other species has done. And it's come at significant cost, so I don't want to disregard that. But there is something different about human species. I in terms of putting top is a problematic part of that. I would put it at one side of the gradient. So that at one side you might talk about human beings and the complex cultures and societies, languages, values, all those kind of things that they can create, and all kinds of different animal groups and populations going all the way down. And then on the question of ants, I think that if we're talking about why should I care about I don't think that I should care, honestly, the same like about an individual ant's life as I do even an individual human life, in the sense of, and we're talking about in the aggregate. In the aggregate, they're all parts of a giant whole. But
this seems
to be honest with you, no, to be like, just why should I value it personally? Honestly, in comparison to like something like a human being, I'm not sure. But when I find an ant in my house, I don't kill it.
Okay,
I grab it and I put it outside.
That's adorable.
People do, and then what?
but I feel like that was a cop out, right? So you said that you put humans at one side of the gradient amongst other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me an animal, right there? I mean, I guess we can do the old bus question, right? So if there's an animal and a human laying on a track, right? Is there an animal that exists that would get you to pull that lever to kill the human instead?
See. Okay. What? Two. One. This is a kind of trap kind of situation. But the second one is, I think that in like the sheer downtrodden utilitarian kind of pure calculation in the moment kind of thing, which I think is what most human beings will do. If there's like, you know, a couple people and a bunch of animals on one, I think it would be hard, honestly, for me. Because I think that I don't know if that's a common thing for most human beings, but I do think that my genuine expanding circle is going to be one where I would take those into consideration in a way that
you're doing it again, though, right? You said you'd put humans at one side of the gradient amongst other people, and that it was problematic to say that we're higher than other things. And so, if that's the case, right? If we're amongst other things in this gradient to you, then I'm assuming, right, that you value the lives of some animals the same level as you would a human's life, any human's life, right? So I'm not saying a bunch of animals and one human, right? One human, one animal. Is there an animal that exists? Whether it's a very complex animal, let's say a very intelligent squid or something.
Got it.
Right? Like
I think that you can honestly there's this huge problem in the utilitarian thing in terms of the track dilemma, which is that you place one person on the track that you really care about, and you place other people on the track that you don't care about.
No, just
and so you do so. No, just hear me out. You replace. Let's say you do your beloved pet, an animal, right? I think that if you talk to somebody who especially has a very close connection with their pet, and you put the pet on the tracks with other human beings, there's a lot of human beings that will say, you know what, I'm going to say fucking Fido over those human beings, because we can make this connection with other non-human animals that almost place them atop other human beings. So all I'm saying is that this gradient is not for everybody as super clear as everyone's expressed it right now. That like, of course, human beings are obviously better and we're always going to treat human beings better. I don't think that that's something that people do in actual practice, because the connections we have with animals, especially domesticated animals like cows and sheep and dogs and cats and horses, are deep and significant in a way that we would do crazy things for them that seem wildly irrational.
This is all irrelevant.
But it's not even, and in that case, it's not even based on complexity anymore.
Anybody who's not a psychopath deciding to let an animal live over a human, like a normal, well, let's say not a total monster, for example. Like, okay, if you have the choice of like a dog dying or Hitler, yeah, hell yeah, let Hitler die, right?
Stop doing that, Dan.
Objection, hyperbole.
Don't do that.
Fucking stupid.
But otherwise, like, what the hell? Like, no, I don't. Where is the history of anybody being like, okay, I'm gonna let a human die over an animal, as long as, like, generally speaking, they're a human that either you don't know or assumingly are well-meaning people. Like, what? Like, who on earth would do that?
Doobie's hypothetical. I think Doobie's hypothetical is just to point out, like, it's just to question the idea that KG was putting forth, that the hierarchy exists, and why is, if there is a gradient, why should we structure the gradient such that humans are at the top? I think that was just the point that Doobie was getting at. Not that this is like, this happens in high amounts that people are choosing dogs or whatever over other things. But it's just, I mean, I think Doobie was getting at something important here too. It's just like, you're saying that, like, why should we put humans at the top? Oh, it's complexity. I mean, in that scenario that Doobie just laid out, the reason that the dog is higher than the human is not based off complexity. It's just literally based off, I have a stronger emotional attachment to this. I think the problem with this gradient thing and all of this is that, again, I think we're running into this problem where if someone just says, literally, I just value people over other animals, even if it is a fallacy or whatever, who cares? What is the argument to convince those people that they actually should care about this? One, that there is even a gradient, which I don't think you've demonstrated, and that humans should be at the top of it. Why aren't humans just equal to every other animal? Why is there a priority to any of these? I mean, they're all animals. You say complexity, but again, Doobie's thing points out that it's not complexity that makes someone choose the dog over the human. And I think when you're saying complexity, you're just pointing out the fact that we have this capacity for deeper levels of thought or whatever. why that complexity is puts you at the top of the gradient, but like really complex ecosystem relationships between all these animals that exist at multiple interfaces, or even if we just look at a fungus, how fungi make these really complex networks and share information with each other, nutrients, etc. Why that complexity doesn't put them at the top just because they can't build a car or whatever, that's all arbitrary. And again, that's coming from a human-centric lens, which is the same human-centric lens that Kobe's coming from when he says, I value humans over animals, and I just want them in my own damn stomach. That is all arbitrary.
That is literally the fallacy, though.
I want to let Pan in quick. I do want to get to you, Chris. So go ahead.
Yeah, so another reason this argument of complexity
Sure, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
You got it. All right, sir, I need alpha palms.
Gotta wave.
Okay.
My hands up.
Wave them off, man.
Absolutely do not do that. I will turn your video off. But go ahead.
One reason why the complexity argument doesn't work is because while it's true that humans as a class are generally more complex and intelligent than animals, there are, of course, marginal cases. And I think it would be absolutely ridiculous to say that a human who, let's say, is less complex, like I would say a 7-year-old is going to be less, or a 5-year-old, let's go, 5-year-old is going to be less complex than an adult. That doesn't mean they have any less moral value. So the only reason that we consider these things to have the same moral values because they're in the same class, humans. And the only way you can justify that class is simply by stipulation that I value humans. Because otherwise you're forced to all sorts of ridiculous conclusions, like an extremely smart pig has more moral weight than a extremely dumb 3-year-old.
The fact that you just stake your pig on human beings doesn't make any difference. You just say, okay, well, I just do it. It's like, well, okay, well, then your justification doesn't matter, because if your justification is just like, well, that's where I lay my flag, and like, so be it. Well, right, then the discussion has no use, no utility.
You were offered a chance to give us a better one, and you gave us nothing.
That pig was really charming.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could bite that bullet and say that, yeah, there are some pigs that have more value than some kids, but I just think that'd be clearly intuitively wrong.
Why?
Let's go to you, Chris. Yeah. Sorry, not done? Are you not done?
For me, because I value humans.
I like eating meat, Dan. So I don't know.
I mean, Jason Society said this as well, right? Like anyone who would trade an animal for a person in these moral dilemmas is kind of a psychopath. Well, it's like it's not that uncommon of a position, right? So we're all dancing around different forms of animal ethics, and one of the most famous animal ethicists in the world who's still alive is Peter Singer, and Peter Singer has this very famous quote that's basically a rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy, which is very controversial as stated, but his point basically is that he's a utilitarian, so he says basically all suffering is equal regardless of what conscious being is experiencing it. So he says we actually, yes, as we're all saying at this point, it's kind of arbitrary to distinguish between the suffering of a rat or a dog or a pig or a human male child. Like they're the same. They're all the same, and we should put them on the same plane. But as it's pretty clear in this conversation, some of us don't share that intuition, right? Some of us are pretty pushing back pretty hard against the idea that the suffering of a rat is the same as the suffering of a small human child. That we tend to think that that's very different. Maybe it's arbitrary. Maybe it's kind of the naturalistic fallacy. I don't know. Like I kind of want to fight about how we're using it here, I guess, because like I don't know. I feel like we're equivocating between a few different uses of the naturalistic fallacy. I mean, typically the naturalistic fallacy is just like this is ought fallacy. Like something happens, therefore it is good, or therefore it ought to be. Most people attribute it to David Hume. It's like, we can't draw a link between what is and what ought to be. I think that's bullshit because Aristotle does it and it works. It's fine. I want to go back way a long time ago though. Prime is like, what's the difference, right? Between a few other people were talking about this as well, but Prime was like, what's the difference between the meat on my plate? If it suffered, if it didn't, if it was treated cruelly, if not, but I still eat meat. What's the difference? I think that's actually a really important thing. And I'm going to throw a link to an essay in chat. Y'all can take from it what you will. It's a Wendell Berry essay called The Pleasures of Eating. Wendell Berry is an American agrarian. He's super old. He's going to die soon. He's been around for a long time. He's written a lot of stuff that's been super controversial. But he basically is like arguing that we ought to be more connected to our food than we are. As people said really early on in this conversation, if you knew how your food was treated, it might not make you a vegan or a vegetarian, but it might make you think twice before you go eat fast food, right? There's significant changes to your mindset and your approach to food that are going to happen if you really, really knew what's going to happen. And so he gives a list of practical steps that you can employ to have a better relationship to food. And the very first one is participate in food production to the extent that you can. Go visit the places you're getting food from. And if that turns you off, then maybe find better places to get food from. So if you go to your factory farm and that's really disgusting to you, then maybe go visit local farms that are selling meat and buy from them. I mean, there's lots of ag share stuff in places like where I'm from that like you can buy into a system with local farmers and get meat from places where you can go visit the cow the day before it's slaughtered. You can know exactly what's happening to it. You know that it's not standing in this little box, right? So. Anyways, he gives a lot of recommendations for how to be more connected to the food that you're eating, which can be really important. And then, as we're talking about different sorts of smart animals and how we deal with them, you guys should all read Alistair McIntyre's Dependent Rational Animals, which I've just put in the chat. Very heady philosophy book, but you should all read it.
I am a dumb conservative. How dare you expect me to read?
True.
Come on.
Yeah, I do want to respond to the argument about Peter Singer, though, because the problem with this argument is that it leads to some somewhat far-fetched conclusions. For example, if we value animal suffering the same as we value human suffering, and you agree that we ought to reduce human suffering, you also have to agree that we ought to reduce animal suffering to the point where we should go out and start policing nature.
Let me be clear. I think Peter Singer is one of the stupidest motherfuckers alive today. So I'm not endorsing what he says. I'm just saying we're kind of dancing around some of these issues, and it's not as far-fetched as some people seem to think that someone might think that these things are equivalent, right? So it's a pretty... if not mainstream, it's at least an academically legitimate opinion to think the suffering of a pig is equal to that of a small human child. So that's a thing that exists. And so, yeah, maybe we think only psychopaths will think that. Maybe there's a lot more psychopaths than we think there are in the world. But yeah, I think Peter Singer's pretty dumb and wrong. So just to be clear.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, I still think it's important to, if that's not what you were saying, great, but it is important to say that, like, if we follow the logical conclusions of this argument, it does lead to some strange places, like, protecting animals from their predators because they would suffer as a result of getting eaten. I mean, we'd protect a human if they were about to get eaten by a lion. We should do the same with, like, a gazelle if they have similar moral value. But yeah, I just wanted to say that Peter Singer's arguments does have responses.
So let's go to the Turk, and then Dewey when he gets back, and then Paul and Jason.
So I'm glad we're having this conversation because I'm about to red pill all of you. Like, we're all humans here, right? And we all are at the top of the apex of the pyramid of being, alpha predators. We can take whatever we want. We can all conserve what we can hunt and what we can farm and how we go about doing that in order to provide food, provide sport, and to all these other things. And we keep talking about it. And it's like, we have the function and the ability to regulate some of these things. And I think we do a pretty good job of setting rules and regulations when it comes to certain actions. And I think there's probably some other steps that we could probably do in order to better facilitate the conservation of certain types of wildlife.
That there's a difference,
but at the same time, we do have to make the big boy put on our big boy pants and say, these salamanders that are keeping me from building this one freeway so that we can reduce traffic fatalities by 20% due to traffic jams all the time.
I think that's
those salamanders got to go. We have the mental capacity
horrible.
to do that, and I think we need to
on that shit. I am not
start thinking more logical instead of, these salamanders are beautiful, we got to keep them. We need to be more rational in what we talk about when it comes to conservation.
We have the mental capacity. Do we have the right?
Yes.
Based on what?
Based on we are the top of the food chain.
Might is right.
I will say that is probably the naturalistic fallacy.
Yeah. If you win, you get to make the rules.
If there was a dinosaur that said, Turk, you are not allowed to live here, I would do everything in my capacity to avoid that thing. And if I fell victim to it, that is my fault on the food chain.
Eucharist and Fresh Ink, I guess you guys direct responses, so try that.
Yeah, just the salamanders freeway example is really bothering me in some ways because, I mean, I have my own shtick with urbanism and freeways, and we build cities very badly, and we don't actually, like, we think adding more lanes will address traffic, and it actually doesn't, and it increases fatalities. But like, we're dumb about how we build cities and how we do engineering. But I guess my quibble primarily is how much knowledge we assume we actually have about the benefit something will have versus the cost. So yeah, I mean, so Paul has been saying this for a long time. I don't know if I'd take it as far as Paul would, but like, yeah, we don't exactly know what the consequences of abolishing an ecosystem in a particular area will be. And we may not know as much as we think we do about the positive benefits of building that new freeway. Maybe it will actually fuck a lot of things up. There's a lot of research about how the way that we've built freeways has decimated black communities in America. Like, this is a big part of The Color of Law, if you want to read that. Like, that's like, we built freeways in ways that really decimated low-income communities and minority communities. Like, we don't know as much as we think we do about what's going to happen when we do certain things. So I don't know. I'm more skeptical probably than you, Turk, about, I call myself a conservative too, but I'm more skeptical than you about like how much we know about the benefits versus the cost. Okay, the cost you say is just this salamander. Okay, if we actually knew the cost was just this salamander and the benefit was this many actual reduced deaths, maybe I'd be willing to say, okay, maybe that's fine. But I don't think we actually know either of those things.
I want to. Sorry, I want to just quickly push back just a little bit into you, Chris. I think we did know what we were doing with the highways. I mean, like, there was some people like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, okay, no, okay, fair.
Yeah, I mean,
but at least in this situation, let's say it's an unintended consequence. There could be unintended consequences that we are not able to calculate at this point.
For the
so I don't. Yeah.
But there's that same argument can be placed to any other sort of environmental thing. If I place this freeway down, it's going to increase CO2 emissions, and that's going to make everyone die because it's 12 years instead of 10 or whatever. That's a kind of fallacy that just, we only know what we know, and we can't, say we can't do things for progress because we just don't know, because then we can't make any forward progress, man.
The question is, to what degree do we take into account the externalities, which is what you're talking about, all of the externalities that come from our activities. And I think that we can all admit that we live in a system that definitely doesn't significantly or in any way, in some ways, consider the externalities of the activity that we're doing. And so you can easily see that, like, we can make a lot of decisions that seem efficient and economical that cause a lot of fucking damage that we don't assume is happening, both to our lives and the lives of non-human animals.
Well, what's the impact of that change to the macro of how we live as humans? Because again, we are at the top of the food chain. If I kill a few salamanders and they are extinct so that we can travel and create our GDP going up 2%, is that a worthwhile trade-off?
I think it's hubris to suggest that you know what it is, the cost that you're dealing with. You don't know, and that's the problem.
Let's go to Fresh Ink off of that direct response, and we got to move on to other people.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, like, one of the things that, like, ecologists, environmentalists, environmental scientists, like, propose is, like, the reduction of suburban sprawl. So would you accept, instead of building a highway that endangers, wiping out a species of salamander, it would... it's proposed that, like, reducing suburban sprawl would help deal with traffic problems, would help like prevent us from impacting species specifically because of human proximity. So would you be willing to go down that route? Because ultimately that's proposed to be the most sustainable for humans, is to redo our cities and to, like, relay out how we structure our habitation.
So as a conservative, yes, I would love to conserve what I can if it's within certain parameters, right? So if I could say I don't need to build this highway, if I build a mass transit thing that replaces that amount of people per blah, 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 blah in the same footprint, if it's fiscally responsible and I don't have to go and do another hike on property taxes, because Austin does that all the time and I fucking hate it. Yes, that makes sense and we should do it. But if it doesn't, we should do the other option.
Yeah, that seems totally separate from the discussion about like animal rights or animal morality, right? Like, yeah, you should obviously it's more cost effective and more efficient. You should do the more cost effective and efficient thing, right?
Yeah, it's a response to like a specific example that was given. Like, there's a lot of examples that we've jumped from.
Well, I want to go back to an example that to a question I asked Prime earlier, right? That he hadn't really answered. He's had some time to think about it, and I'm really curious. So, Prime, you said earlier that you don't care, if you prefer if animals were killed humanely, but given that they're ending up on your plate anyway, you don't really care how they die, right? So if that's the case, and what I brought up earlier is if there's some cultures, or some people that believe that causing suffering to an animal, right, as much pain as possible before it dies, to the point that they're boiling dogs alive, or cutting meat off donkeys and whatnot while they're still living. They believe this makes the food taste better, so it increases the pleasure of the human. If that's the case, right, if that's your position, are you okay with these people doing that?
All right. Before I answer that, there's something Pan said a long time ago, and I wanted to address it, but I haven't gotten the chance. I'll do it now. Pan talking about, well, however you killed the animal, don't tell me. I'll just enjoy it later. I disagree with that entirely. I think I agree with what Eucharist was was trying to relate to us about getting more in touch with your food. And I think we should be able to face these things. If we can't face how this is happening, then I agreed with everything Eucharist said. Then we should eat something else, right? I've never had the opportunity to go to a slaughterhouse. I don't think they let just random people in because they're afraid they're going to be.
They do. Sure, you can go whenever you want.
Seriously?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep. Just go to your local butcher shop. They'll let you. Yep.
Oh, for butcher shop. I mean, I'm
slaughterhouse too. Go to your local Tyson's. They'll let you in. They'll let you watch it. They're fun.
The best place to go to is
fucking gross, man.
Family farms, you can actually see how they break down cows that are treated right and taken care of, and that's actually not.
Oh, you can do that one, which is not how usually it happens. You want to go to the ones where they're pumping out cows like a motherfucker.
Yeah, that's right.
You want the industrial farm.
I can understand someone taking
they're gross. They're horrible.
Okay, but hold on. Would you guys hold this position for every other fucking product in your house? If you have a treadmill or something,
there's no ethical consumption in capitalism.
There is a
come on. Well, I'm asking you, right? So wait, hold on. So if you wait, hold on. So not just your food, right? So we have a lot of things in our homes that humans build, right? They sweat over and cut their fingers and shit. Do you think that people should be encouraged to go to those factories and taking time out of their lives to see how their fucking refrigerators put together?
Yes.
Why?
So,
I don't know.
So that we can see how shitty the lives are for the people that build our stuff. So we can
the point of me purchasing
because the system is built on exploitation, and we should decrease exploitation.
So the point of me,
I think you should.
The point of me purchasing steak at a store is because I want steak, right? I don't want to have to see the whole fucking process of the poor cow being raised.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's so silly. That is a problem.
Why? Because it's a bummer.
It's the same reason when I buy a piece of equipment for my computer, right? I don't give a fuck about how it's put together. All I want to do.
Shouldn't you?
Sir?
Not really.
I want to respond to Prime. So Prime said that I should look at how my food is made and something. But I guess my response would be if something makes me personally uncomfortable, but I don't view it as immoral, I feel like I should just ignore it. One instance. So in some cultures, in a lot of Muslim cultures, it's very proper for women to wear burqas and stuff. Now that makes me uncomfortable, but just because it makes me uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad or immoral. So what I should do there is I think I should ignore it, right? So if I don't think it's immoral to
whether or not it makes you uncomfortable or not doesn't factor in at all to whether or not it's justifiable, which is
right.
The actual
But what
question.
I'm saying is, if me going to this butcher shop, admittedly it would make me uncomfortable. But if I don't think the act is immoral, so I should.
It makes you uncomfortable because you think there's something wrong with it.
Lots of things make me uncomfortable.
No, because
you think there's something wrong with
gross.
those.
Yeah, it smells and it looks gross, and I don't want to fucking hear the dying animal, right? It's
no, there's a difference
because it's gross.
Hang on, well,
okay. All right, so first of all, Pan, you aren't fucking consuming like Muslim women, right? Like,
it was an obvious
we don't know what he does on his spare time, but
those two things aren't the same thing, right?
Just kidding.
Right,
So I don't know.
maybe it was a bad analogy.
Okay, fair enough. Hold on, Turk, go ahead, whatever.
So, Doobie, I appreciate what you're saying, and I hope you will join me in my Patreon channel. I'm going to be starting soon, and it's called How It's Made. It's based off of a popular YouTube channel or a standard video on Netflix, maybe. My wife watches it a bunch. But we watch animals get butchered in a commercial setting, and we start to educate some of these people, and like, this is what reality is. And if you want your current lifestyle to be propagated the way it is, you need to watch this show. So, Doobie, I appreciate you wanting to.
Turk, I appreciate that. I've been hunting before. I've been fishing before, right?
You need to watch.
Wait, hold on. Wait,
oh boy.
Farm horrors, right, where they go through the process of a dog being bashed on the floor, then having its fur cut off, peeled off while it's still alive. Yeah, a dog.
That's not a commercial process.
Hold on.
But okay.
Yes, it is. That's how they make. That's how they make fur coats.
In the United States, we sell.
Not in the
dogs.
United States. Okay, no, I'm not talking about just the United States, right?
Your
I'm talking about watching animals.
You're nitpicking. Who cares? Go.
I watch animals being skinned alive for their coats, right? I've watched people. I've watched the factory process of like gutting a cow and shit, right? It's not that I think there's something wrong with it, right? I'm not like sad for the cow. It's just gross, right? When I buy a piece of meat, when I buy a steak, what I prefer to imagine, right, is this steak came from some factory somewhere where it's totally clean and sanitary. There was never any shit on this piece of meat, never any guts. I just wanted to imagine it just showed up perfectly sealed for me, and that's what I'm purchasing. That's a convenience that I'm purchasing. So I don't want to think about the guts and the cow shit that's been on it, that's been washed off.
Because it's gross. So what I expect from you, Doobie, is you to donate to my Patreon page, where we create a How It's Made series, where we educate some of these people that don't understand the commercial production of meat or services or products, so that we understand.
Why should I give a fuck? Why should I care?
I don't think anyone should give to that Patreon.
I think we've all seen those videos of like, this is how a slaughterhouse works.
Education.
And like,
it's so that people understand what goes into actually what it is.
Also a little different when you're there.
We got a few people in mind. We got a few people in mind. All right, so look, let's go to Jason, who's been waiting patiently.
All right.
And then we'll do Spoon and you, Chris.
So, like, my take on it is there's a few things here. Yeah, there's an ethical way to hunt. There's an ethical way to ranch cattle or whatever animal you want to ranch. There's really unethical ways to do it too. I think, and I'm a huge advocate of like ethical farming. I'm a huge advocate of hunting for the purpose of eating the food that you're hunting, or hunting for the purpose of preservation. I don't think, like in these examples that were shown in the articles tonight, where they're talking about the dolphins, I don't think there was no preservation involved in that. There was nothing that was helping. There was nothing that it was forwarding. And from my understanding, you can't really even eat that meat. So I didn't see the value in that per se. But I think that, again, people were talking about a gradient. Yeah, there really is a gradient. And guess what? Humans are at the top of the food chain. That's what it is. Sorry, natural fallacy, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's what it is. I want steak on my plate, but I actually do care about where it comes from. And I do care about how it's farmed. And I do care about where I get it from. And I do buy locally sourced meat because of that. I buy locally sourced dairy because of that. Because it's important to me about what goes into my body. It's not just a matter of the ethical treatment of the animal. It's that I know that I'm getting a better quality product when the animal's treated better. So for me, it's 100% like that. And all this, we can quibble over the gradient of, well, what constitutes a reasonable animal to kill? Well, what animal are you willing to put on your plate?
Okay, so maybe people in chat, certain people in chat, or have said I don't care how these animals are dying. Maybe, Prime, if you answer that question, give me a reason to care. Okay, maybe we'll finally get to that. Maybe you can tell me why I should care, why you should care, how these poor defenseless cows and chickens and shit are dying.
Because they're more healthy when they're treated better. They're better for you when they're treated better.
Not necessarily. You need to donate to my Patreon page so we can
fuck your Patreon page. Okay, I don't care.
No, you're saying people don't understand, and then you say
I'm saying that I don't. I'm saying they shouldn't care. Know. I don't care how my steak became a steak. I just want the steak. I don't care that it was a cow named Bertha running around in a field somewhere at some point, or that it was.
I think you should care how your shit's created.
I literally just want a steak. I'm paying for the convenience of having a steak and not having to deal with the fucking cow.
Maybe you should shut up because the other guy said you should.
Don't eat meat. If you can't deal with what happens to make that meat, then don't eat the meat. I'm comfortable with it because I've been to those places and I've seen that shit, and I'm okay with it. And if you're not, then don't eat the meat.
So we're going to go to Spoon, Eucharist, Fresh Ink, and then Tubi. But before we do that, there's another thing, very important part of the program that we got to get done. Hello all. If you've been enjoying this conversation we've had so far, right? First of all, if you're new to this channel, hit that follow button. If you haven't done so yet, hit that follow button, make sure notifications are on. So you know I'm going live. I do this all the time, 6 nights a week. We do this. We have these conversations and we yell at each other. I actually didn't think this topic would have I would go so far. I didn't think it would grab your attention this season. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be struggling with this one. But apparently that's not the case. That's fantastic. But yeah, so people are entertained. Love it. If you want to keep this going, right? If you value these conversations, help us out. Subscribe to the channel. It is September. Yes, it's true. If you are a new sub, then you get one free.
You guys, if you want, if you have Amazon Prime account,
not 1%. You'll get 20% off. I'm getting my discounts mixed up. You'll get 20% off. You get 20% off in September, right? We're halfway through September. Now's the time. Use that bonus. Channel. Thank you. Someone's helping us out. Thank you, Psychopathic Goat, for gifting 1,000 bits to save the animals. I'm not sure. Is that what I'm going to use that for? Let's say yes. Let's say I will definitely use
tonight.
That money.
I don't know how I feel about it.
To save the animals.
It's not great.
Definitely.
Hookers and blow.
So, if we get 2 more individual donors, we can start ourselves a hype train, which is how we pay for these things. Thank you, Cycloptic Go, for being so kind as to donate to the channel. Yes, but you can sub to the channel and you'll get our emotes, exclamation emotes in chat. These are our stable of emotes, which we are constantly expanding. We'll be expanding soon enough with other stuff too. Or you can also get ad-free viewing. We've been playing ads during all of this, right? And if you want to avoid those ads in the future, consider subbing to the channel. It's September. You get a discount when you do. Right? Or you can gift bits like Psychopathic Goat just gave, or you can gift subs. And gifting subs also gives you 20% off. So let's try to get this done. Let's try to get 2 more individual donors so we can start ourselves a hype train again, which is how we do all of this. It just allows me to come back night after night and do this for all of you. When you donate, you are supporting these open panels, right? If you're enjoying these conversations, enjoying us having good discussions, or just getting highly upset at each other, well then help us out. Now's the time. So you can sub for 1 month, for 20% less if you're a new sub. Right? Or you can sub for 3 months or 6 months, save cash because you also get a discount when you do that, when you multi-month sub. Or if you have an Amazon Prime, if you subscribe to Amazon Prime, then you have a thing called Prime Gaming, which means you get one free sub per month. And that helps us out a ton. You can use that on this channel, and I think this channel deserves it because we do it all the time. We give you content all the time, 6 nights a week. Thank you, Problematic Pan, for supporting and gifting a sub to American Mutt. Was that on purpose, or was that random?
I just did random.
That was random. Okay, all right. I thought you were making a statement. Okay.
No.
All right. One
the only
more
statement I'm making is start this damn hype train. Come on, people.
Yeah, let's make it happen. So one more individual donor. We're gonna start ourselves a hype train. Remember, this is how we pay for this. This is what allows me to do this. Allows me to keep coming back and provide you with this edutainment. One more well, hopefully be educated, entertained though, at the very least. So help us out. We have entertain. So we have 90 seconds left. 90 seconds left. Let's see if we can get that another donor. Or else we have to start over again and get this hype train off because we got to do this hype train. Can't move forward without the hype train. Can't move forward without supporting. Thank you, Jesus Society, for being so kind as to help us out by gifting us up to Lil Starry Berries. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. Anyway, thanks so much. Okay, we are in a hype train, level 1 hype train, 67%. Done. How much is that left? Is it 33% left? And then Casey Jana comes in hot with 400 bits. Thank you, putting us at 81%. And then Sig, I guess, is gifting pocket change, and we do appreciate your pocket change. Thank you so much. We're at 81% of a level 1 hype train. 19% left. Can we get to a level 2 hype train? Can we pay for this channel, for all the things that we do here, right? Pay to help us put together all the shows that we do. For instance, tomorrow we will be having our small council.
How you doing tonight,
I'll be
DJ?
back. We'll be talking about something, and we'll have people there, and it'll be great, and it'll be a nice discussion, because small councils are a discussion-based thing, unless arguing. Oh, all right, Doobie wants to get this over with. Answer the dog question, sir. Okay, Doobie, with 5,000 bits, unbelievable. Thank you, Doobie, for the kindness, helping us out, keeping this channel up and running. Right, 5,000 bits. That should put us well past a level 2 hype train into a level 3 hype train. Thank you, DB, for the kindness. And I will answer the question. What?
Mr. Bezos appreciates those bits too.
Oh, oh boy. Yes, he does. 100 bits from Pablo Fame. Thank you, Pablo Fame, for the kindness. Putting us at 10% of a level 3 hype train.
We are building another cocket ship.
We are moving along. 90% left of level 3 hype train. 4 minutes on the clock. This is how we make this happen. Again, thank you for the kindness from our buddy Doobie there. But can we get to a level 4 hype train? Can we get to a level 4 hype train? Like I said, you're supporting all the things that we do on this channel and all the things that we hope to do in the future, right? So we'll be doing, again, small council tomorrow, our discussion-based type thing, which you've all seem to like. And then on Monday, we'll have a Revelry Roundtable, which is not really discussion-based. It's more debate-based, and we yell at each other, and it's great, and I love it. It's the best.
You gotta start later in the night, though, man.
Why? Oh, for you to come on.
Yeah, exactly, man.
If you come on a half hour late, that's fine. If it's like a half hour, that's fine. But
a half hour?
Yeah, a half hour is fine because we're only just getting started by that point. Yeah. Anyway, so we have 3 minutes left on the clock. 3 minutes left on the clock. We got a kind donation from Doobie, but we need more people, more individuals to help us out. You guys are making me laugh in chat. More individuals to help us out. Oh, and plus, like, I'm not sure if we saw it, but like, we need some Prime Banker emotes in chat to thank Doobie and all the other kind individuals for their donations. This is what's keeping us alive. So we got to thank the people who are helping us out, who are being so kind. So Prime Bankers in chat for them specifically. But yeah, help us out. Now's the time. Remember, if you want to help out the hype train, you can sub to the channel directly. You can continue to sub, right? So if you have like a sub, right, like a resub type thing, you can do that right now. You can do that right now. Helps out the hype train, moves along, right? Or you can continue to sub. You've got to give sub from one of our kind gifters in the past. Perhaps us out to thank you, Eucharist, for moving along with 300 bits, bringing us at 16%. Thank you so much. Yes, but if you continue your sub, one, you might be able to get that discount because it is September, 20% off on new subs, right? Or, of course, you can gift subs that are also 20% off. Usually Amazon Prime / Prime Game. We have 90 seconds left on the clock. 16% done. How much? That's a lot left. 84% left. Can we get to a level 4 hype train? Is it a possibility? Let's make it happen. We're also supporting the All Black Everything, which we have on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoy that, enjoy the crazy discussions we have there. That's my favorite, right? To help us out, support the channel, sub to this community, and or gift bits or gift subs. All of that helps out a ton. Remember, 20% off, and of course you get our exclusive Hype Train emotes if you hop out the Hype Train. Much appreciated for those who do. But yeah, we'll be supporting everything that we do. We'll be keeping this alive and allowing me to come through. Thank you, Doobie, who apparently cares a lot. Thank you, Doobie, for gifting 10 hot tier 1 gift subs to the channel for 220 lifetime. All right, Prime Bankers in chat. Prime Bankers in chat for Doobie. Holy crap, Doobie's being super kind today, and we appreciate Doobie's kindness. Thank you. Right? And Doobie's enjoying, of course, the discount for gifting subs. Thank you, Doobie, for doing that. Dollar goes farther when you gift. Putting us at level 4 hype train, and Doobie has gotten us almost all the way here. Thank you so much, Doobie, for all of that. And I will answer your question 100%. I absolutely will answer it when I'm done with this. Positively, we'll do that. Okay. So we are at a level 4 hype train, 4.5 minutes left on the clock, 8% done, 92% left. Can we make it? Can we make it to a level 5 hype train? Is that a possibility? Of course, if we do a maximum hype train, we'll have bonus time here at the end. Thank you, Sig, for more of your pocket change. Much appreciated. But yeah, we'll have bonus time at the end, so I'll continue the stream longer than I usually do. But that's it. If we complete a hype train, maximum hype train, I will do that. So it's something to work towards as well. Boji strikes. Boji's another incredibly kind person. She also doesn't like to lose to Doobie, so that's part of this, I'm sure. But thank you for gifting 5 hot tier 1
Yeah,
gifts.
she's gonna need to ask her husband for her credit card again.
Boji, you're great. I like you. Thank you for gifting 5 subs to the channel.
That is low. That is a low blow.
Oh man, I didn't say it. That's him. That's the frog that said it. Be mad at him.
That is a low blow.
We're at 45%. Hey, Spoon. Hey, Spoon. You're a mod here, right? You enjoy this channel? Hey, why don't you sub to the channel? Wouldn't that be great?
No.
No, why don't you sub to the channel, Doobie? Well, not Doobie, excuse me, Spoon. Yeah, sub to the channel. Go on.
I'm never spending any money on Twitch. It's not happening.
Why not?
Which is free for me, okay? I won't give Bezos a penny.
Oh, fuck you. All right, we're at level 4 hype train, 45% down, 55% left, right? The British are a lesser form of humans, so you don't listen to them.
It would be ethical to eat me, apparently, according to Karen.
Indeed, it would be. Oh, God. Anyway.
Are we dying on subhumans?
The British would be super fucking stringy. I just had anyway. We are at a level 4 hype train, 55% left. 2 minutes on the clock. Can we get to level 5 hype train? We are moving along because of the kindness of individuals here who are helping us out. We're keeping this afloat, and we appreciate every single one of them because they are paying for this. They are keeping it alive. But we're out there again. If you appreciate all the things that we do, right? If you value those things, well, then invest in this community, right? Boji has, right, to the tune of 167 subs. So has Doobie with 220 subs. We definitely appreciate it. But you don't have to be a.
It's kind of weird that that's more than Boji. Like I don't know.
I say nothing. But God damn it. It doesn't matter if you are a large or small donor, right? So, exactly. So, West Side gifting 1 sub, 3 subs total. Hey, that means a lot. Puts us at 52%. Moves along the hype train, right? We appreciate our large, small, and medium donors, all of you working together, keeping us alive, right? Not one person can do that unless you're really fucking loaded. But
we appreciate our large donors more, though.
No, we appreciate every single. We appreciate all of you. Okay, so we have less than a minute left on the clock. 52% done. 48% left. Can we get to level 5 hype train? Help pay for all of this, all that we provide, right? Is that a possibility? Can we make it happen? Doobie, whoa, Doobie's in a super good mood. Oh man, really kind.
Talking about the ethics of boiling dogs' lives just really gets me going.
Oh, Doobie, Prime Banker emotes in chat. You fuckers, do it now. Prime Banker emotes in chat. If you are a sub, then you have access to those emotes, right? Use whichever emotes that you have access to. We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 emotes. Use whatever one you have access to thank Doobie right now. Thank you, Nerdity. Other people, Prime Banker emotes in chat for Doobie, who is carrying us. Oh, it's super kind. It's unbelievably kind of you. All right.
So that was Doobie not donating to my my Patreon video series where we were going to actually document some of this stuff. So I hope you appreciate that, Prime.
I do, because it's in my pocket. And it's not in your pocket, so I love it.
You could have educated millions of people.
Very, very moral of you.
I don't claim to be a moral person. I claim to be a person enjoying life. And when do I enjoy life? When my pockets are full. Thank you, Doobie, for making me happy.
Smells like a capitalist.
It does, doesn't it? Right? But it
does.
200 bits from Zin. Thank you, Zin, longtime supporter of the community. Followed by Black Ryuji with 100 bits, putting us at 21% of a level 5 hype train. And can we smell it? Look, we're almost there.
Come on, guys, let's get to level 6. We're so close.
Maximum hype train. And as I promised, we will go longer than we usually do, right? If we have hit a maximum hype train, that's like a new thing that we're doing now. I should have been doing this a long time ago, honestly, but I'm doing it now. So that's a bonus if we complete a hype train, but it's all up to you, right? Doobie and Boji and a few others have carried us all the way to this point, right? And we thank Doobie, we thank Boji, we thank them for the kindness, right? So help us complete it. Help us get to a little maximum hype train, right? And again, we will get a bonus time when we do. So we're at 22%. Was that 78% left? 2.5 minutes on the clock. Can we get to a maximum hype train? We're almost there, right? How about the hype train? Sub yourself, right? Sub to the channel if you haven't been so lucky as to get a gift sub from all our kind gifters. Well, then sub yourself. It's a worthwhile investment. You get 20% off because it is September, right? If you hadn't thought of doing it before, do it now. This is how we pay for this. This is how we keep it going. You get it with your help, right? So, 2 minutes left. How else can you help? Resub to this channel. If you got a resub ready to pop, use that resub right now. It pushes on the hype train. Or continue sub if you've gotten a gift sub. You are one of those lucky individuals. Got a gift sub. Consider doing that. Or I never actually will do this, but you can raise yourself to a higher tier level, right? If you're at tier 1, instead of being tier 2, helps us out a ton. And we have a few tier 3s out there as well. And we thank every single one of those people. Right? We have 90 seconds left in the clock. 90 seconds left.
Otherwise,
we get to a maximum hype train. We will make it there, right? Sig wants us to. That's why they're again tossing us their pocket change, and we appreciate it, right? That 9 cents, that 9 cents will go to a homeless person in my area when I throw it at them. So yeah, you're helping out the unfortunate when you give to this channel. So less than a minute left. Do we have any more heroes in chat? Can help bring us home. Maximum hype train. for that bonus time at the end of the stream. It's all up to you, right? But we do appreciate the people who have been helping us out so far for their incredible kindness and incredible generosity, who have carried us here. But yeah, subs to the channel, gift subs, gift bits, or a resub. If Amazon Prime, use that here because we do so much to for you. Fuck the British in general. Right? Just put that up.
Well, all the work I put in here.
Put it out here. Fuck you. Fuck the British. Right? They're ungrateful. But anyway, we have
for every bit you donate, Prime eats a British person.
Yeah, I need to say something really quickly because people in chat are doing this duboji thing, right? Like there's some kind of like romantic thing or sexual tension. I wouldn't fuck Bojo with rat dog stick. No, thank you. I just want her to be humiliated by needing to go to her husband and beg for the credit card so she's higher than me on the list of all-time donors or whatever the fuck. That's all I want. Right? I'm not attracted to this person. Fuck Boji.
Well, that's the thing that's just happened. We've experienced. All right. So we gotta go and thank our donors. Thank you, Sig, for your pocket change. Again, a local homeless person kid it when I toss at their face. Thank you, Black Ryuji, for helping us out. Thank you, Zen. Thank you, B, for the kindness. This is unbelievable. Thank you, DB, seriously, for that. I'm going to answer that question soon. Boji as well for helping us out. Who else helped us out? Eucharist, Pablo Fame, and who else? Jason Society, Problematic Pan. And I think there was some person I'm missing there. But anyway, and Cycloptic Goat for starting us off. Thank you. Thanking our top 5 gifters, right? At the top, number 1, Leah, our channel queen for a reason. Thank you so much for the 100 subs. Rackus Network with 70 subs. Doobie with the 55 subs. Zonia Dead with 50 subs. And in the 5th place, right? But not necessarily 5th in my heart. We love her. Thank you, Boji, for being there at 49 subs to the channel. Means a lot, helps a lot. Leah, number 1 at the top for cheer gift. There's 35,000 bits from Leah. Thank you all so much for your kindness. Nick Pibre, 9,000 bits. Hans Vikir, 5,000 bits. Skanky F, 5,000 bits. Doobie, 5,000 bits. Those are our top 5 gifters. Just some other side business. Nord, Extra Nord. If you want to help us out that way, you can use our affiliate link and get 3 months free when you use that affiliate link. Sign up for 2 months or 2 years of Nord, and you'll protect your internet service. I'll come up with a better commercial for that later. I don't feel like it right now, but still help us out. Click the link and use that. One of you people. I don't care how many months I'll do it. One of you motherfuckers is gonna fucking sign up to our affiliate link. It's gonna fucking happen one of these days, and I'll be extremely so excited. Exclamation point. Donate if you want to help out through our PayPal button, right? So use that, or the PayPal button below. If you're on desktop, you can scroll down, use that. More of your money gets to us if you use our PayPal button. And exclamation mail. If you want to send us stuff directly in the mail, that's a thing that you can do. Okay. That's all that. And now I have to, the person who was so kind as to help us out and the power to pay for this whole stream. I gotta answer Doobie's question. Doobie, you asked me, do I care if animals are straight up no fucking around tortured, and before they're putting my plate?
It makes them taste better. That's an important part.
Yeah, if it makes them taste better. I would say my answer to this, and my answer to this, because, like I said, I want to. I know it's contradictory, and I don't have a good reason why. I haven't really thought of a good reason why I hold this stance. So I'll put it out there that's weak sauce for me. But I would say that I don't want them to be tortured. I don't want them to be tortured. I would much rather them put out their play. Now, if they are, if they aren't killed in the most optimal way, right? Like we saw in that video with the dolphins, right? Where some of them were still flopping about on that shore, the bloody sea, right? If that happens, it's fine, right? But to go out of your way specifically to make something suffer, I know it's not specifically because of a sadistic need, but still, to go out of your way to make it suffer, I think is unnecessarily cruel, right? I am doing a cruelty. I am doing a cruelty by eating it. I accept that because I'm hungry and I don't give a shit. But I think that the added cruelty of specifically torturing animals, I would not endorse that.
So it begs the question,
you can survive if you didn't eat it, right?
I mean,
so like,
it begs the question,
the fact that you're hungry doesn't matter.
How much cruelty is okay, right? Because you're okay with like, oh yeah, I know I'm inflicting some cruelty on them, but you're not okay with inflicting that much cruelty on them. It begs the question, how much cruelty?
Boji, thank you for gifting a sub. Not thank you for gifting it to Dancing Spoon. He's an ungrateful British person. Do better.
Thank you, Boji.
Appreciate you, Boji, one way or the other.
Like if I poke every cow in the eye before I kill it, is that like too cruel? Like I'm not really doing any damage to it there. It's kind of annoying.
That's not even worth answering. Who cares?
Well, I'm just asking, like how much cruelty?
It's ridiculous.
How much cruelty? Because Prime admits that he's okay with doing some cruelty to animals, i.e. eating them and killing them, right? But he's not okay with torturing them.
He's saying he wants it to be the least cruel possible. That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
but the least cruel possible is no cruelty.
There's no purpose to...
Right. I agree with you there. The least cruel thing is to not eat the fuckers.
Yeah.
But they taste really good on my plate.
Yeah,
but that's not a good answer because whether or not it tastes good is not relevant to whether or not you need it, and you can find other sources of things that taste good.
It's perfectly fine with me. I have no objection to it.
But you don't have any reason to take the position. I know that you do take it.
It's good, and I can eat.
Right, but that's not a good reason. Sorry, I know that's a reason, but it's not a good one.
Why is that not a good reason?
It's a good reason for me.
Because whether or not it tastes good is irrelevant to whether or not it justifies the murder of someone else to give it to you.
Doesn't matter to me.
It's not emotional outrage. Yeah, it's the unnecessary taking of a life is murder, right?
Okay.
Can we agree with that?
So hold on.
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure that's true.
Then that's how I was using murder.
I just want to fully answer this question, and then we can go off into all kinds of directions. And we do have a list of people who are supposed to go. But
sorry.
No, that's fine. And you were asking good questions. So Spoon, and it's your turn next anyway, Spoon. Spoon, you were saying poking something in a cow in the eye. I say there's no purpose to that. I'm saying there's a specific purpose to killing that cow.
What if it makes it taste better? What if it makes it taste better?
I have other ways to make it taste better, right? And I would take that the lower quality of taste, right? Lower quality of deliciousness that I can probably replicate some other way, right? Than the unnecessary suffering. I will admit that my position is incoherent, but that's how I'll answer that question. So, Doobie, do you accept that? You paid for all this, so do you accept that?
A little bit disappointing, I gotta say.
Very disappointing.
But I don't expect people, right, to be like me. I don't expect everybody to have like totally consistent moral philosophy or whatever the fuck, right? Not everybody's like me. I understand. It's okay.
All right, Spoon.
That's awesome.
Right, so I do eat meat. Okay, right. I think eating meat is actually okay. And let me propose a hypothetical to you, right? Imagine if there were a species that was so much more intelligent than us that we didn't really know that they were eating us, right? And that they could like kill us and eat us without us ever really knowing about it. And it would cause us distress when like one of us died, obviously, because we get distressed like that. But like we wouldn't really ever know. It wouldn't really ever bother us. Like, they die of old age.
It distresses us.
Yeah, they die of old age, or like they die in a traffic accident or something like that. We just accept it as part of life because that's just our conception of how things function, right? And then obviously, like, you know, they don't get buried, right? They get eaten by this like fucking alien species, right? I think that would be fine. I think that would be ethical, right? Because it doesn't really affect us. It's just how we accept life. It's just part of life. And that's why I think animals function. Like, so for
the
example,
only
like
way that we
cows-
evaluate whether or not it has value is whether or not it affects us.
Yeah, basically. So like, for example, with like a cow.
That's your
right?
moral compass, whether or not it affects you.
Essentially, yeah.
So like, what happens halfway across the world that doesn't affect you? You don't.
So for example, like a cow, right? So like cows, mate, they love the farmers, right? They see the farmer and they're like, that man is like food and like nice stuff, right? I love the farmer, right? They see the farmer and they go right up to the farmer. They fucking love him. But the farmer
I think it's hard to know what's going on inside a cow's mind.
No, generally speaking, like you can see that like on farms, like the animals like the people there, right? Because they just associate them with food because animals aren't smart. That's just
well, if they're nice, if they're a dickhead, the animal,
obviously.
If the guy beats the shit out of the cow every day, the cow's not going to be friendly to it. So it's not just that they give them food; it's that they give them companionship and respect and all kinds of stuff.
Just let me finish the hypothetical. It's not really in favor.
It's kind of a ridiculous hypothetical.
Let me finish the hypothetical. Then you can respond to hypothetical.
There's not really like a benefit to anyone. Like stressed cows like make worse products. Like that's just like common knowledge. Like stressed animals make worse products. So like it's not really in favor of anyone to do that. Anyway. The animals love the fucking farmers. They love the people, right? Because all they get is like they treat them nicely. But the farmers fucking back at home eating a big steak, right? And the cows don't know this in much the same way that we wouldn't know this if the aliens were eating us. So as far as it affects us, as far as it affects the animals, it seems reasonable, right? And then you get to this like question about, oh, what about eating dogs, right? What about eating humans, right? What if a human dies of old age? Why not eat a human, right? And it's just like, it seems like you're using moral anti-realism to the point of just absurdity at that point, right? The reason we don't eat dogs is because culturally it's inappropriate, right? The same reason we don't eat humans, right? Can you make a case to me ethically that eating humans is wrong, even if they die of old age, even if they consent to being eaten after they're
The
dead,
same reason
right?
we don't enslave people is just because we don't, because we just happen
exactly.
to live in a culture that we don't. It's not that it's wrong in and of itself. It's just that we happen to live in that society.
I don't believe it's objectively wrong though, because I don't believe in objective morality. I think the reason we don't do it is because it's not to our benefit. We don't like it, and it makes us uncomfortable in much the same way that eating dogs makes us uncomfortable. Seeing a cow gets murdered makes us uncomfortable. Enslaving people makes us uncomfortable. All this other shit makes us uncomfortable, right? And then we get into this conversation about, oh, what about other cultures where it doesn't make them uncomfortable, right? Fuck those cultures, all right? Those cultures have bad values, and they should not have those values, okay? And we should fuck those guys.
Wait a minute. Whether or not you take the position you take is just historically or culturally contingent. But other cultures who take a different view, fuck them, they're wrong.
Exactly.
On what basis do you have to say that you're right and they're wrong?
I think he's being facetious.
No, I'm not being facetious, right? On the grounds of, I hold my views because I think my views are correct and they're the best views, and so does literally everyone.
Even though you admit they're culturally, socially,
yes, but
historically contingent.
Literally everybody holds their views like this.
Stupidest thing I've ever
Wait, hold on. Okay,
no,
KG, are you a moral relativist?
No.
Okay, then what's your reason for saying that the cultures or traditions of another nation are could be morally wrong? Like I don't want to. I always use this example because I feel like it's
because I will make axiomatic moral claims, and then it's the burden of proof on me to justify them. But I think that I can. I think I have good reasons to do so.
I'm sorry, but it's literally true that everybody everywhere holds the views they hold because they think those views are good, right? You wouldn't hold them if you didn't think those views were good, right? You would change them, right?
I think that there's a lot of people who hold views that they feel forced to hold.
I don't think so, right? I think
really?
they feel like pressure.
You don't
to
think
hold
that there's a
those
lot of
views?
religious people who, like, if given the opportunity to get out of that like situation, they would think otherwise, but they do because like it conforms to what most people are doing.
Like
Come
they
on,
choose not to. They choose not to change their views because they think actually it's more in my benefit if I continue to look like I hold these views. And there's a difference between your outward views and your inward views, just to make that distinction, right? And my inward views are this, and I'm competing with other people's inward views. Which yes, I think my inward views are better than other people's inward views, and that's why I hold them. That's why anybody holds any position on anything, right? Because they think they're correct. Right?
You overestimate the confidence by which people hold their positions.
I don't think so. I think people get pretty fucking defensive about
cling
their
to
positions.
their positions pretty
I think you're doing it.
The clinging
like
to
you
and having
did
confidence
earlier.
in are not the same thing.
But hold on, like you clung to that gradient thing earlier that you couldn't justify.
Exactly.
I think people are really hesitant to let go of a position that they found themselves in.
exactly.
The gradient I couldn't justify in terms of there being.
Yeah, you couldn't justify it. In terms of human being at the top of this gradient, amongst other things.
Because remember, I didn't say top. I just said at one side of.
Right, but then when I ask you for an example of a creature that you would choose over a human, right? If just any human and anyone. Okay, right. So but you said that it would depend on.
How's that not a justification?
You said it would depend on the complexity, right? But all the examples you gave were not complexity.
You're the one focusing on this claim of complexity. I think that's one of many.
I'm focusing on the thing that you said, right? And then you started giving examples. You started giving examples. Well, okay, you started giving examples. Oh, maybe this is like a dog that I have a connection with, or maybe this is like a family friend, or maybe this is someone I love. Right, but that's not really talking about humans or dogs as like a category or a group. That's talking about this specific human or specific dog, right? So that doesn't really even answer the question.
Like,
what question?
It's like, would you rather save your dog or a stranger on the other side of the planet? I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather save my dog because I like my dog, right? It's my thing.
I think that makes my point.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the reason I want to save my dog is because it's important to me, right? Because I like my dog. It's as simple as that, right? So, like, the idea that, like, human life is ubiquitously more valuable than animal life, again, that's, like, not true. So, like, even this scale of, like, humans are on top, animals are on the bottom, that's not true. The only thing that actually bears out... The only thing that actually bears out as relevant here is how much do we fucking care about it, right? And quite frankly... I care about eating meat because I like eating meat, but I also don't like hurting animals, right? So I think we should probably minimize the hurting of animals, make it so they don't really realize what's going on, because I think, again, in my first hypothetical, I think that's reasonable. I don't think they really have the conceptual, like, brain power to actually understand what the industrial meat market is. I don't think a cow can conceptualize it.
Do you know how you'd be sure that you wouldn't hurt animals? Is if you didn't eat them at all.
Yeah, but they don't understand that they're being hurt. They don't understand that they're being hurt.
But it doesn't matter. I'm saying if you want to be sure that your position is one in which you're not going to be involved in
I am very sure that a pig cannot conceptualize of the industrial meat market. I am like
I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I'm talking about your position relative to them, right? You know that you're eating something that was killed.
I don't think
you can make the decision. You can make the decision to not do that, and you'll live just fine. And you would know then that you weren't involved in the any kind of necessity for anyone to die.
I'm saying,
why wouldn't you make that decision if your real goal is to minimize animal harm?
No, I didn't say animal harm. I didn't say anything about minimizing harm or anything like that, right?
I'm pretty sure you did.
I said it's all about, like, the relative nature of things. Again, if I die in a car crash tomorrow, but it's really orchestrated by an alien race because they want to eat me, right? I don't think that's immoral because nobody's gonna fucking understand that that's happening. In the same way that when a pig goes into the slaughterhouse and it gets a bolt in the back of the head before it realizes what's going on, it doesn't really it's relative to that pig. It's lived a great life and it has no idea what's fucking going on. Right, I think that's completely reasonable.
Lots of assumptions. I don't find a lot of value in what you have to say.
He didn't say he cares. Oh, sorry, Brian, but I was just wanted to clarify. He didn't say that he was trying to minimize animal harm. He said earlier that the quality of meat that you would get is worse if the animal is like.
You said if you could minimize animal harm, you should do so, but not to the point where you
because it leads to less.
Because you want to eat meat. Yeah, you want to eat meat. You want it to taste good. But the idea is that if you can minimize the amount of harm, that's the goal, right? Even if the reason for the goal, I think the goal is minimizing harm.
No, I'm trying to maximize, like, human benefit, like my benefit.
No,
yeah, that's
not
my goal.
Minimizing harm, minimizing suffering.
Hold on, we got
well, the same thing, really.
Eucharist, Freshing, 2B had their hands up previously. We got to make sure we get to them. Eucharist.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it down as you were saying it. You said, I like the eating of meat, but I don't like the hurting of animals, so we should minimize the hurting of animals. So, I mean, we're kind of bickering about, like, what you said. It's fine. Like, if you don't, like, if you want to nuance it, it's fine. I'm not trying to pin you down on something, but I think that's a really interesting claim. We should minimize the hurting of animals because I don't like the hurting of animals. But you had just said, right, because there's a particular animal that I like my dog, I'd be fine with, saving my dog over, a person on the other side of the world. Yeah, I mean, like, I like my dog too, but I I would hope that in a situation where somebody was like, either your dog dies or somebody on a human on the other side of the world dies, I would choose the human over my dog. Like, fuck my dog, she's great, but like she can die, and I prefer humans. So, going back to an earlier conversation, we were kicking around for just a tiny bit. There was a side conversation about the least cruelty possible in meat eating, something that came up with regards to Prime's supposed inconsistencies. I don't know, but I wanted to challenge the idea that like the least cruelty possible is not killing and eating animals, because as somebody mentioned earlier, I think our friend who stepped out earlier, my fellow conservative buddy, there's a what would the least cruelty possible would require going out into nature and stopping other animals from killing each other. Okay, so like the least cruelty possible is not just don't kill animals. It's we shouldn't have domesticated animals in the first place, and we should fundamentally alter the course of nature. But we can't do that. So the least cruelty possible is not really a practical or available option. So we're talking about I guess the least cruelty possible in the context of domesticated farming, and that's really different, because as like Sneaky Debate Man here has said earlier, like, oh yeah, that pig probably led a pretty good life. Well, most of the time they don't, but I would prefer to eat a pig that did lead a good life. So this is relating to the essay that I shared in chat earlier, and something that Doobie said earlier about like, why should I care about the conditions that my meat was raised in? I would rather just not know. I think there's a difference that we're kind of like dancing around between a moral revulsion and other kinds of revulsion. So if I encounter something at a factory farm that is just so disgusting to me that I could not possibly consume that meat, that could be a kind of moral revulsion. I could say they're treating these animals so badly throughout their life that it's something that we just should not do to animals. But there could be another kind of farming. It's possible that there's another kind of farming where the animals get to live their lives generally how they would in any circumstance. They get the food and the water that they need. They live generally happy lives, and then at some point they are killed relatively, painlessly, as painlessly as we can, or as cruelty free as we can. They lived pretty good lives, and then I get to eat that. That might not be something I want to participate in, right? Like I personally may not want to actively be every day working slaughtering those animals on that farm, but I could look at that farm and say, well, that's not morally repulsive to me, where the factory farm might be, right? Maybe that depends on our morals, but like I think we should probably draw a distinction between those two things, between like, oh, I just physically can't do this myself, that's kind of disgusting to me, and this is something that I am opposed to morally, and it's so repulsive to me that I can't even with good conscience participate in it. And this is what the essay that I shared in the chat earlier says. Like when when Windleberry travels, he says, I don't eat meat when I travel because I can't be guaranteed that the place that I'm eating meat at, I don't know where it came from. So he's like, I eat meat that comes from my farm or from the farms of the people in my area. Yeah, I'll eat meat there. But when I travel, I'll eat vegetarian. I can't be sure that the meat wasn't cruelly treated. So why does it matter? Why go to the effort? This is like my final point. I've got to go to bed at some point. This is relating to something Doobie said earlier as well. I don't think we can segment eating as just this like compartmentalized part of our life. It's not just a physical process. It's more than that. It's like all cultures treat eating as there's some ritual to it. There's something more to eating than just, getting the nutrients that your body needs. So I think we should care what we eat and why. But on the one side, people have talked about health benefits, right? Like if you eat better stuff, like maybe it's less disgusting, that's fine. But I think we should care because our eating intersects with our economics and our politics, which means that it intersects with our ethics as well, right? We're all arguing about politics all the time in these panels, right? So our eating intersects with our politics in the sense that like we have farm policy, we have animal cruelty laws, we have economic policy, and all of that relates to the way that we eat, and we get to incentivize different types of policies through the way that we eat. So it matters, I think. It's not just like I'm just like, it's just a thing that I have to do. I just eat when I need to and then I'm done. Like it's more than that. There's something more important about eating than that. So
I totally disagree with the second point. I disagree with the first one too, but I'm more disagree with the second one. I think that like this whole like I don't know, this ritual thing people talking about eating is like a spiritual experience and shit. It seems really fucking weird. Like I don't know where that comes from, and I just don't. Maybe I'm like deficient somewhere, because I don't understand that at all. And so maybe when you bite into a sandwich, you have like this moment of like fucking, you have like an epiphany. You're like connected with the universe or some shit. For me, I just want it to taste good, and I want to shove it in and get to the rest of my day. Like that's literally it.
Very American of you.
Yeah, that sucks. That's not a good position. Good for you. That's the position you hold. Cool, but that's totally unjustifiable.
How is that unjustifiable? How is that unjustifiable?
I like to eat this. I like to do X, so I'm going to do X, right?
No, hold on.
I like to beat the shit out of people, so I go to beat the shit out of people. And I don't really care if it harms someone else. I don't care if it like has an effect on someone else. I like to do it. It's fun for me, so fuck it. That's your position. Hold on. Bullshit.
No,
is your microphone ethically sourced?
Wait, hold on. So I think that's a little silly. So I've already told you why.
No, there's no ethical consumption in capitalism.
Who cares? So I've already told you.
Me?
Yeah. Okay. Well, who? So I've already told you, right? That why I wouldn't go around like advocating for random humans to be eaten and killed and shit, right? Because I'm a random human and I don't want that happening to me, right? So this is not something I advocate for. I'd advocate against it. Right?
You're a random animal. We're dealing. So why does
I'm a human animal. I'm a human animal. Right? When
so
it comes
that means,
to like
why does that matter?
When it comes to like other animals, you haven't given me a good reason to care about the ant or the moth or the fly or the boiling dogs in China. I think if I were in China and I saw someone boiling dog meat, I'd probably try the meat because that's pretty interesting. I don't want to see what it tastes like, right? Like I just don't understand.
Right, I think your connection. I think your connection to non-human animals is so disentangled that you can't see the fact that it's something similar to you.
Okay, I have two very adorable little doggies. I have a cat and I have like 200 koi. Right, I love all of them. Right, they're adorable, but I'd eat them if I had to. Right, it's not that great. I don't think that's like. I think most people would do that. I think you can put yourself on your moral high horse and pretend that these are like. You know, you have like some spiritual connection to these things, or there's something more to them.
Objection, Your Honor.
The comfort you get when you cuddle with them now and then.
If I had to choose, I would eat my dog. Yes, absolutely.
Completely irrelevant.
I don't think that has much bearing on our conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly not to do with hunting.
I would eat the stranger. I wouldn't eat my dog.
Let's go to Fresh Ink.
There you go.
To me, gosh, I don't really know. Like, to be honest, I think a lot of we talk about like morality and like eating animals that necessarily we would be comfortable with, ignore some of the criticisms of like the factory farming. Like when you're saying like, I don't care how it's get killed, I just want to eat it because I enjoy it. It's like, well, I mean, like it could be unsustainable enough that it like endangers your life. And that's the only thing that I would add. It's like some of the things that we're skirting around is some of the criticisms that it's not sustainable.
I think you're right. I think the best argument against like the industrial meat market, like factory farms and like battery farms and stuff like that, is not this like weird moral claim of like, oh, we're mistreating the animals. It's like actually it's really bad for the environment. The growing energy demands, land demands, water demands are like actively just destroying the planet, and it's going to come back to harm you one way or another.
Only if you think the self-interest of human beings matters more than the moral value of animals.
That's what I mean, right? I'm appealing to Doobie here. So what I'm doing is using a rhetorical tactic. I know Doobie is self-interested, so I'm saying actually, Doobie, battery farms are not in your self-interest. You see that? Damn, that's rhetoric right there.
Wait, what? I was drinking. I was listening to you. What did you say?
Don't worry about it.
God damn it.
Let's go to
sophistry, not.
Yes, it is sophistry, but it's also true.
To be.
Yeah, I get.
No, it's not. It's bad. It's a bad argumentation.
To be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess just hearing everybody talk about these ideas, I think it's just really hard for anyone to give an argument that once you have a set of sensibilities on an issue like this, I feel like you justify your philosophy based off the like predisposition you have. And I'm sure there's people who switch between the two. Like for me personally, I'm in the point where I don't want to consume as much meat, and realistically I want to probably try to get away from it, just because I think for me it would be a health thing. Like it would be a healthier lifestyle for me to live, and so I would have more longevity, something like that. And I do feel like for me personally, I have a kind of moral repulsion to it, like for my research, I have to work with mice so I can study breast cancer. But in order to study them, I have to kill them and then take out their lungs. And it is different when you have like when you actually do that. So I understand what people are saying about like it changes your relationship to the meat or whatever when you have to actually handle it yourselves or when you have to see the process. But again, like Doobie's saying, who cares? Like Doobie can literally just say, who cares? And then I don't share those sensibilities. And then I guess KG would say, oh, that's a bad argument. But who cares? Like, I mean, how do you convince somebody who doesn't share that presupposition that you have, that consciousness is what distinguishes things of value or not? And again, why do you value that over something else? You tried to justify it as, you know, we have this hierarchy and then complexity, and consciousness gives people complexity, and then Dewey asked you to justify that. And it, I mean, to me, it seemed like it ended up appealing to the same kind of thing that Kobe's thing was appealing to, which is like all of this stuff, all of these frameworks we develop, they're not, we're trying to pretend like they're from the perspective of the animal, like, but they're not. They're always from the perspective, they're always human-centric. And when somebody doesn't share this human-centric frame with you, how do you weight one human-centric frame over the other? And I don't find that anyone has a good objective reason for doing so. It's appealing to their emotions. It's appealing to the sense of revulsion. It's appealing to these other kinds of things. Like, even though I am sensitive to the argument about like, oh, you should understand what's being done to animals, it's like, I do think Eucharist was pointing out the correct like demarcation here. What are we talking about when you have a revulsion to something? Is it an actual moral revulsion you're having, or is it just because it's gore? Because, and I don't think because you have a revulsion to something, when you haven't analyzed what the basis for that revulsion is, that you can say that, oh, you had a revulsion to it, so therefore you know what the correct moral response is. Because people would be revulsed by something like war or trauma medicine or ER medicine because they have gore, but that doesn't mean that it's inherently a bad thing. Like that, and that framework too of evaluating your revulsion, that's variable between everybody. Everybody has different tolerances for gore and all that stuff, and these things can be justified. You can justify war, you can justify the use of trauma medicine, and it makes more sense for you to care more about why those what the conditions are surrounding those necessarily than the conditions surrounding meat. You only need a certain level of quality of meat for it to be consumable and safe for the public. You kind of need the highest standards for medicine and war, because at least in the instance of medicine, if you don't have the highest standards for that, it's actually bad for you. It's actually going to expose you to secondary infections, to other things that would directly go against the promotion of longevity and health. So I don't know. I do find a problem with Doobie saying though, because it's like, I don't like that argument, and I get what KG's saying. I don't like that argument of just saying like, who cares? Because again, I think like, how do you distinguish then, Doobie, when you should care about something versus when you don't? And I know you can just say, oh, well, when KG gives me a good reason. But I'm saying, how do you as an individual stop yourself from just being like, who cares all the time? And beyond, beyond just, oh, I have these sensibilities right now, so I care about this thing because my sensibilities predispose me to caring about this. How do you maintain an open mind where you can evaluate dynamically whether you should care about something or not?
Well, I think I went through that earlier, right? When we were talking about why I should care about humans, right? Why I shouldn't want like bad things happen to humans or whatever. It's because I think at the core of this, it's all very like I don't know if I'd call it like egoism or some shit, but it's all very self-centered, I think. And I think it's just this way for most people. Or it's this way for me. I'm not going to make claims about other people. I think I think I'm just better than most people.
Yeah, hear me?
So, you know, I think that like kind of like what Prime was saying earlier, right? So when it comes to like animals, I can care about my dog, I can care about my fish, I can care about my cat. But when it comes to like caring about, you know, the suffering of other creatures, even other humans in some cases,
gravy,
right? Like it's kind of with humans, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And I think, you know, we can pretend we really, really care about, you know, people being burnt for being witches in Africa, or all these poor women in Afghanistan, but we don't really lay up at night staring at the ceiling crying about it, right? It's kind of a thing that we know we're semi-aware of, and we can't really do anything about it, so we kind of brush it aside. Maybe we'll virtue signal on the internet about it. But unless
human beings can be dicks, but sometimes it's not a good thing to be dick. To be a dick.
I don't think it's being a dick. I think we are.
I think that's what you're talking about.
No, I don't think that's being a dick. I think that if we can affect this thing, it's kind of like wasting energy crying about it, right? So unless you're like, maybe you can donate to some like charity or some shit, but really for most people that's the most you can do, right? And I think people are aware of that, and it just kind of ends there. And with animals, like I think if I don't have like a personal connection to another creature, whether it's a dog or a cat or a cow or a goat or whatever, I just don't. Maybe you're right, 2B. I can't give you a better argument than like, who cares? Because I can't think of a good reason to care how this goat's being treated or how the steak's being treated. Right? I'm paying for the convenience of not having to care.
I think that makes you more. I think that makes you worthy of moral judgment.
You make a point.
When I pay for a really expensive piece of meat, right? I'm paying for the fantasy that this thing has never been part of some farting, shitting creature wandering around in a pasture somewhere, right? I just want the piece of meat.
That's your desire for self-delusion. Who cares?
You're right,
that's fine, right? Like I don't. Go ahead.
It's not important beyond like your connection to it, right? But like most people who aren't like psychopaths see dogs and be like, yes, in general, I like dogs. Not just my dog, but dogs in general, right? And in general, I like animals because I'm not a crazy person, right? So like it extends beyond just like your immediate circle for most people, at least. I think it's probably a good thing, right? That we have this sort of egoistic altruism of like, probably not good that we just go around destroying things for our own pleasure, because I understand that having other things be favorable towards me is also in my interests.
If your friend just willy-nilly kills animals, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with my friend?
Right? You're gonna be like, that's insanity, right? And exactly the same reason.
It does just come down to what I was saying, though.
Let me finish. Right, so you're right.
I'm not mad at you. I tried being a vegan for about a year and a half. I did so, I'm sorry, a vegetarian for a year and then 6 months.
Things I like,
I
dislike. I'm for good
vegan, and I
just bad things, right? That is just the foundation.
I couldn't hang.
That sounds like the low IQ take, but it's actually the high IQ
try,
take. You know, it's that like bell graph meme or the bell curve meme, where the low IQ guy and the high IQ guy have the same thing, and like the middle IQ guys are stupid, right? Is that?
Be
that's
careful
what it
with
is.
that.
Wait, so really quickly, so you can debate, man, right? I think that like what you said is, so if my friend were going around randomly killing animals, I'd worry that he'd kill my animal. So at the core of even that, like that issue, isn't that I give a fuck about these random animals, these random ass animals that he's killing. He said I don't want him to one day murder my animals. So I'd say, hey, stop fucking randomly killing animals. Unless he purchased these animals legally, then I don't give a fuck if he kills them. Right?
If there was property, then it's a whole other thing.
If he wants to buy a hamster and use it as a fleshlight, I don't give a fuck. It's his fucking hamster.
Yeah, that's so fucking crazy. That just shows the debasement of your whole position.
Oh, that's not okay.
Built on a foundation of sand.
I don't think you can give me a good reason not to use hamsters as a flashlight.
No, you're forgetting, Doobie. You're forgetting. It was originally a ferret. That was your first example.
You're forgetting TOS.
Well,
I rest my case, Your Honor.
I feel like most of these guys on here are hamster guys. Let's be honest.
Oh boy.
I would argue for the right of a hamster not to be a flashlight. I absolutely would.
Eucharist, and I gotta say, like, the price of admission is worth it just for Eucharist's reactions. All right, so let's go down.
Fuck me running.
I mean, I don't really value that much of a hamster. I find them as a cool delicacy in Peru. I've ate a couple of them. Even though they're like really cute and all, I mean, they're pretty much delicious, and all the other stuff. To that matter, I would understand for Doobie's perspective. However, when it gets to, I kind of would value more the intelligence of the animal than to the amount. That's usually the area where I would not consider to eat, such as like a dolphin or a whale or whatnot, because I find those animals to be at least almost to that level of like intelligence where we can pretty much communicate with them in a certain manner
for it?
to all that, and I find that to. And the reason I'm very much against of the whole entire dolphin killing and whale killing in the Faroe Islands.
What about octopuses?
Fuck octopuses. I mean,
Yeah, but
so
octopuses are smarter than dolphins.
Smart.
Yeah, they're super smart. Smarter than dolphins.
Okay, I'm pro-mammal on this. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So you don't really value intelligence, mate. You just like dolphins while you like octopuses. That's it. Like that's the base position.
we all just put our lines, and for him it's mammals.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll explain my biases.
You put yours at plant.
Exactly.
It's mammals, unless it's a really cute hamster that you're gonna eat, right, Dan?
Okay.
That's what you said. You ate hamsters.
What's the other word for the hamsters?
Rodent?
No, this is a different kind of hamster.
Cheap fleshlight?
No, but to be clear, on my biases, I'm actually I supported the Sea Shepherds Conservation Society for probably most of my life, and they're the ones that have been like with their boats taking out like whalers in Antarctica and other places, and they've been heavily documenting the stuff in the Faroe Islands for very well. I was very familiar with them stuff around 2012 when after they literally videotaped the whole tide of them killing all those whales on the beach. So it's like, to me, I would value to them those animals, because at least to say there at least has some intelligence, life to where I would say they're valuable, more alive as a species than just simple food for like people's mouths.
I bet you prefer that we like keep like this like beautiful like bird alive rather than like a rat, even though rats are more intelligent, right? It does just boil down to I prefer this animal over this animal because I think it's like cooler or nicer. I identify with it more. It's nothing to do with intelligence or like benefit to the environment or anything like that. It literally is. It's the most raw point. Anybody's line is just I like this thing and I don't like this thing, and we're just like that just comes from nowhere.
Like even you
good reasons.
Even you base meat eaters, right, on the panel.
So
even you base animal objectifiers, whatever, on the panel, right? Like you guys probably wouldn't be okay with people eating cats and dogs in your city. Right, like or
there's some restaurants here where I think that they've done that.
Sure.
Dan, you'd be okay with that. That's actually really surprising. I'm proud of you. What about the rest of you? I don't care about the rest of you. So most people, they see a dog and they don't think, oh, this is something that I could make a taco out of, right? It's like this cute, cuddly animal that they want to feed and pet and shit. But the only reason that's the case is because we've been taught that dogs are cute and cuddly, and they have like this symbiotic relationship.
I think it's just as fucked up to kill a cow as it is to kill a cat.
I don't.
Well,
I think I like cats. I don't really like cows. So
I think you've been socialized that way, but I think if you thought for a while,
obviously,
with cows for a while, you probably realize something different.
I really would encourage.
I wasn't socialized.
I am in favor of very, very ethical farming and breaking down factory farms and like industrial farming industry.
I'm saying that I think that it's just as bad to kill a cow as it is to kill a cat.
Yes,
not because I was acculturated that way, because I have had enough
harvesting of produce.
Your positions have come about as you are a product of your environment, exactly the same way mine has. That doesn't make your positions any better than mine.
Is that so? Are all positions equal then?
Like, do you think it's as bad?
No. Well, everyone on this fucking panel comes to their positions based on their experience, and everybody's had their own opinions. So,
exactly right.
How do we evaluate the difference between them? Is there some kind of like different rubric that we can use to evaluate these kind of things, or is it just like a free for fuck it all, and we can just say whatever the fuck we want, and like we'll all just jerk off together?
I think my positions are better than yours, and I mean, at the end of the day,
based on what?
Unfortunately, it does come down to might makes, right?
Down to what?
Might makes right. I mean, that is unfortunate.
Might makes right. So the justification of your position is that at the end of the day, you could beat the shit out of me and kill me if you had to.
No, not me specifically, but my position is that
someone with your position against someone
generally
with my
speaking, the cultures that hold my positions can enforce them more, and like that.
So truth is based on who has the most power to enforce that idea.
That is true. Yeah, that unfortunately.
That is a fucking insane idea.
Yeah,
Lion will pick their pride over you.
Holy fuck!
It's unfortunately true. Unfortunately true.
Okay. All right. So
Sorry, I came in hot.
Any government that's ever been in power is totally justified in doing anything it's ever done because it's the one in power.
I didn't say it was justified. I said it was right.
Eucharist.
What the fuck is the difference?
Eucharist.
Sorry, Eucharist.
Every single person in this VC right now needs to sit and read Plato's Republic.
No, not again.
For the
Plato's
next 2
Republic.
months, just sit with it.
I already
chew on
read it.
Just,
You can become the philosopher kings, my
you
friends.
You just gotta read it. I mean, as long as we're talking about
Maybe
might make
like
right.
the prince is probably more valuable than that.
No, God, fuck. Okay, all right. We'll talk about this off stream. All right, so if we're talking about the environmental impact of the things that we do, the choices that we make, one of the best things that we could do actually is to hunt feral cats in urban environments because they fuck up the environment everywhere that they are. We release cats in places they just don't belong, and they thrive because they eat everything and they just screw up everything. So we should just hunt cats if we really want to improve the environment in most places. Doobie said something that is generally true of people, and I think he's right, is that we don't actually deeply emotionally care about the suffering of people in far off countries. We don't lay awake at night thinking about the suffering of people in Afghanistan right now. Even if we're concerned politically with it, even if we are activists and we really think about it, most of us don't lay awake at night and think about the plight of those people, you know, similar for all these people. Doobie, I think, is generally right. Like Adam Smith has a point on this that I think is really poignant. He says, if you told a person that tomorrow you were going to cut his pinky finger off, he would lose more sleep over that than if you told him that tomorrow there was going to be an earthquake in China that was going to kill hundreds of thousands of people, right? Like this is how human beings work. We care more about the things that impact us directly than the things that impact people we can only imagine at a far off distance. But that doesn't mean that that's okay. That doesn't mean that that's a good thing, right? So Doobie says, well, yeah, I care about my dog in the case that I find out my friend is randomly killing dogs. Are we talking about what makes us care about certain things, or are we talking about like why we should care about certain things? Because those are different, right? So yeah, I can acknowledge that, like, I don't actively emotionally feel things that I might think are important, right? Like if you said, yeah, I'm not actively emotionally impacted by the plight of people who are going through cultural genocides in other parts of the world right now. Like I'm drinking, I'm having a good time, I'm in Discord with some friends, like hanging out, talking about politics. Like, it's not really emotionally impacting me. Does that mean that that isn't awful? Does that mean I shouldn't care about that? Does that mean I shouldn't, like, think that that is more important than a rat that just got killed in a trap down the road? No, right? So we kind of have to distinguish between those things. But anyways, the whole might makes right thing, y'all just need to read Plato's Republic and just like sit with it for a few years.
I can learn how the uterus moves around the woman's body and it causes illness.
Wait, so you, Chris, I want to make just a kind of hone on it a little more. I think most people don't even care about like the homeless people down the street. They even the homeless people, they give $1 to, right, as they're walking by.
You don't even care about their fucking neighbor, man. Like if you live in like a house share, you don't care about the person in the room.
That is true. I think that is descriptively true. That doesn't tell me whether or not they should care about those people.
And do you think that that's somehow like an innate principle of humanity, that if you didn't structure society differently, human beings wouldn't be different, as if human beings have like always been exactly the same throughout the entirety of their existence? Because that's a fucking stupid ass claim.
I think
it's obvious that human beings adjust to their environment. I think this is a very basic principle.
I
think put a human being in like any we're self-interested. We're also communal. We have all of these kind of different traits.
I think we're communal in our self-interest, right? I don't necessarily believe.
Yeah, but you're this psychological egoist who doesn't understand the idea of falsifiability, which is the fact that you'll make a claim that's totally unfalsifiable, that every human being just cares about their own self-interest.
Your claim earlier was falsifiable. Then when we asked you to justify it, you couldn't. So like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, at least it's falsifiable.
I'm talking about his being unfalsifiable.
I didn't say it was unfalsifiable. I didn't say all human beings are. I said I think we are.
Claims all night.
You said you think all human beings are, sure.
Yeah, I think we are. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe in the concept of altruism, because like even when like you think something is good, like you do any act, obviously you do acts because you think they're good, right, in your moral system, whatever that may be. And when you do that act, even if it's a negative consequence to you, you feel good having known you've done that act, which again alleviates the idea that it was altruistic in its nature.
This is philosophy fucking 101. Jumping on a grenade doesn't do that.
Exactly.
So you're fucking. It's just wrong.
No, because you do, because like jumping on a grenade. Although like, I die from jumping on a grenade.
You might think any moment right before the grenade goes off, people are gonna love me. That's fucking
exactly right. I'm gonna be remembered well. right? Like
That's
believe that's necessary.
unfalsifiable. What I'm saying is that I can't present to you something where you could say that, yep, my theory would be false if that were true. That means it's unfalsifiable. We've established through the history of we've established that a principle that's unfalsifiable can be ejected hat in hand because it's not valuable. There's no way to prove it false.
KG, do you think that you are above this condition that you keep talking about? Because
what condition?
Well, you said that. No. You said that. This is the reason people don't care about homeless people on the streets because this is what society has done to them. It's just conditioning, yada yada. But I don't think you care about homeless people, right? Unless you've got like
I'm not sure that you can make that claim.
Unless you've got a bunch of smelly homeless people living around your house, stinking up the place and sleeping on your couch and shit at night.
Is that the criteria by which someone cares about homeless people? If you actually
gave a fuck about these people that are sleeping out in the street,
I would let them live in my house.
You'd let them sleep on your floor. It's much better for them, much safer for them than sleeping outside on the street.
There's another fallacy that's the either or.
You drive by them just like everybody else. Hold on. No, so you drive by them just like everybody else while claiming your moral fucking high.
Those are one of the most bad faith arguments I've ever heard.
I don't think that you have any justification to claim what I do and don't do. And I think you'd be surprised as much as I have right now. I don't think that the way that we would claim whether or not someone cares about homeless people is how many of them are living in their house.
Oh, okay. So you care about them so much, you don't let them into your home. You have them sleeping out in the street.
I care about them. I care about them so much. I care about them so much to work towards a system to be able to change the fucking way. So there's not more empty houses than there are homeless people.
You quote unquote work toward the system, but all these people are actively suffering out in the street right now. You're not going to let sleep on your floor.
Again, I don't think that you have any fucking justification to tell me what I haven't done, and I'm not going to put my fucking dick out and measure it compared to you against saying like, what have you done? What have I done? So maybe I guarantee you, and I don't want to be a dick about it, but I guarantee I've done a fuck of a lot more than you.
Maybe
you don't even give a fuck about whether or not animals die because you just think they're tasty.
Maybe you do have a bunch of smelly homeless people in your house, right? I'm just saying there's a lot of space in your floor.
They have to be smelly. That shows your
they probably smell
right
if they're homeless.
Too,
that's the reality, right? Unless you're letting them
your experience with homeless people shows. It really does show. I know that you have a huge.
You are pretending to have this moral high horse, and you drive by these people just the same way everybody else. Maybe you toss a few bucks at them so you feel good about yourself, right? But the reality is you don't give a fuck about these people. Right? Yeah. Just like I don't give a fuck about these people. When I give a homeless person
I haven't worked towards building affordable housing. I haven't worked in places
you have affordable housing for them literally on your floor. You can say, hey, here's my floor. You can come off the street.
We're gonna cure climate change by driving
the party of three.
You can make little changes to help the people around you.
One individual can do some things. You're right, but that's not going to make the fucking difference that actually matters. Systemic change is the issue.
You won't do it, right?
It's not me that's responsible.
I am Jason Society. Jason_Society's channel.
To make sure that we create a system that doesn't involve homelessness.
Sometimes I play video games.
This idea that it's my fucking fault, it's my single responsibility. Better, right? And you should know
you can make all these people's lives
I like good conversation.
Space in your floor, and you won't do it because you're worried about the system. Okay.
Are you sure I haven't done that?
I'm asking. Do you?
I have done that, yeah.
Oh,
I've let people. I have myself been homeless, and I have let people. You know what? I didn't meet a fucking homeless person today that needed a place on the floor. But you know what? If I did, I have enough space for them. Yeah.
Why didn't you go seek them out? This weekend you can go drive.
Why didn't? Oh, see, now I have to go seek them fucking out, right?
You care about these people so much. They don't have another way to get to you. Like, what are you talking about?
That's fucking ridiculous. And
they don't have another way to get to you. Why didn't you go seek them out? Drive out to them, offer them a space in your house at night. It's much better. It's much safer for them to be out on the street.
This is so good.
The idea that you can judge me based on what I've done tonight is fucking ridiculous because you don't know what I've done in the past, and the idea that we have to have this dick measuring contest about what we've done is fucking stupid. And again, if we're gonna do it, I guarantee you I've done more than you have.
That's fun. That's fun. Maybe you have, right? But I'm telling you, if you're gonna pretend to trot around on this moral high horse, while dismissing or
moral high
removing yourself
moral position
from the responsibility and the logical conclusion of the shit, the way that you say that people should live. You're just not living that way.
The logical conclusion of your position is I like food. It's tasty. I don't give a fuck what happens about where it comes from. I don't want to think about where it comes from. I want to be an ignorant fuck, and I just want to do what I want to do because it tastes good to me. That's your fucking position. It's a ridiculous position. It's a position that we should dismiss hat in hand. And I know you don't think it's ridiculous. It's the one that you hold.
Give me a reason to think it's ridiculous.
I'm
it has
high as
no
shit, so
relative,
I'm gonna take another hit because I gotta get it.
equation to
So I can deal with
the
this
other
shit.
people that are involved or the other things that are involved in what you're talking about, right? If it's a decision that you only make,
what does that just mean? It has no relative equation.
Okay,
What does that mean?
if you want to listen to
Word.
music, I'll tell you, fucking listen. If you want to listen to music, you can listen to whatever music you want. It's not going to affect anybody else. If you want to listen to fucking polka or punk or anything, listen to whatever you want, right? But if you go and you want to fucking like tear up a street so that you can like have fun on the street because you like to BMX bike or some shit like that, other people are going to get affected. You got to take into account the effects of your actions on other people. That's a fucking BMX bike on your street. Imagine if you were talking about fucking killing things.
I've already
elevated reason that goes beyond about like, you know what, I like it and I don't give a fuck that it kills people or kills things. I don't care. Like the idea that you don't think that the relationship between your decisions and the effect it has on other living things matters at all shows the depravity of your moral position. I think we should just reject it hat in hand.
Everything you just said was stupid because, as I said earlier, I wouldn't advocate for people to be able to go around killing people, thieving, raping, whatever the fuck. Because I don't want that shit to happen to me. Now, given that given that I use these same roads, I drive on these roads, I wouldn't want people tearing them up with BMXs.
But they like to do that.
So fuck you. It affects me because I'm in the area. So fuck them. They don't get to do it. It's that simple.
Doobie is just willing to admit that he's self-interested and that like his self-interest should be everybody's self-interests, and thus there are some things that people shouldn't do, right? Whereas you're unwilling to admit
there's contrasting self-interests, and so we have to figure out a way in which we're going to deal with the contrasting self-interests, right? Which we have to admit right away that our principle can't be I like it, therefore it's my position. We have to have other justifications so that we can deal with other people who have different positions, so that we can find some kind of objective means by evaluating. Yeah. Well, what are the fucking objective means? You've asserted that it's your desire to do this thing that's the basis of your position. I want to know something that is as objective as we can do, that everybody in this panel can say, yep, that's a good way to evaluate whether or not we should make this decision. Not it's just because it's mine. Something that we could all agree.
Well, KJ, I think you're saying like we should have these other justifications so that we can bridge kind of these opposing viewpoints and then think about like what the best action to go forward is. I don't think these things can be bridged, and I think it's because it's about a fundamental belief that you have about, again, what kind of life do you think is valuable and why do you think it's valuable. I think Doobie and
relativism. Yep.
Yeah, Doobie and Sneaky Debate Man are still just not convinced that animals fall into the class of being that we should consider for applying all of these rights and concerns that we apply to people. And so I think also the problem is that like Doobie, he probably had 2 beers and some grits because he's turning up super hard right now. I don't know.
Wait, no,
I might have had a few too.
Wait, why does it need to be grits? I
think it is like a gray area, right? So like Prime said, like there's like an acceptable amount of like damage or whatever you can do. Like again, like if I come and like poke you in the eye, it's probably not like moral, but it's also like not so bad, right? Whereas if I come and like chop off your arm, that's like way too far, right? Like so again, it's all about like gray areas and like where we stand on these things. It's not just like we just do things because we like them. Obviously, we make these considerations of like, well, I like it, but like what are the effects going to be? But the like foundation of it is what are the effects going to be to me, right? I want this thing because I like it, and if I do it, right, what are then going to be the effects that then impact me, right? And I think if you could act completely without consequence, yes, you would act completely self-interestedly. And yes, I understand your point about yes, we're a product of society, and perhaps this isn't the case. But you're just asking the age-old question of like nature or nurture, and yes, I believe there is a lot of nurture in the way we act and the way we think and like the morals we construct. But then again, I think it's also fallacious to speculate that we don't actually have any natural instincts. We don't have kind of like.
I would agree with that 100%.
Exactly. So again, I don't think saying
interaction between the two things we're talking about.
Exactly.
We're evolved creatures living in circumstances that we didn't create, that we didn't understand, that come from a long way. All the kind of stuff.
So I don't think saying I think we are inherently self-interested. And generally speaking, we tend to act in our self-interest. And even in the case where it appears as if we're not acting in our self-interests, we are still acting in our self-interest because, you know, in the long game, in further considerations, that is in our self-interest.
I can make the same claim about us being communal, that we can look at all of these like things that we do in a social way, right? So it's not one or the other; it's both, and they interact. And in systems that we live in, incentivize some and disincentivize others. And so the question is, do we live in a society that disincentivizes some of the kind of like things that would gear up our social consciousness towards animals?
Go, you Chris.
I'm gonna pass. I don't know. I don't.
Come on.
I don't think I have enough to say on this. Okay. My one thing. I think we are. Yes, it is true that Doobie and some other people here think primarily in terms of self-interest. Like, I would dislike it if somebody was randomly killing dogs because I would fear for my dog. What I think is missing from this conversation is the part of all of our moral developments that comes from walking by the homeless person on the street and thinking, oh man, what would it be like if I was in that situation, and feeling some sort of pain because we anticipate what it would have been like if we were in other situations. It's not just, oh no, what if that happened to me? It's like, what would it be like to be that person in that scenario? Those are different things, right? So it's not just, oh no, someone's killing dogs, I hope they don't kill my dog. It's, oh no, what would it feel like? Like, I see a news story about somebody randomly killing dogs. Oh no, what would it have felt like if that had been my dog? Oh no, I feel bad for that person who lost a dog. It's putting yourself selflessly in the shoes of somebody else and learning to feel alongside them that I think is an important part of our moral development that I don't know, we're just kind of missing in our conversation. Yeah, that's all I got.
I think we're missing it because it hasn't been made clear why, to like Doobie and Sneaky Debate Man, that you should bring all animals into that realm, not just animals that you have close proximity to, that you allow in your house, that you see distributed ubiquitously all over the U.S. in the form of pets or whatever. Like, why should you extend this concern to something like a cow, which is traditionally, you've been conditioned to think as like an animal to be slaughtered and fed food from, not like your dog, which most people are conditioned to look at as a pet, an animal of receiving of affection, things like this. Why should you bring, to Doobie and Sneaky Debate Man, why should you bring all animals into that realm?
Well, again, hold on, just to clarify, there is like a line there, again, right? So I do care to some degree about all animals, again. Like, it seems like we don't need to torture animals before we kill them, because there's some level of empathy there. There's some level of care,
what about Doobie?
Right?
What about Doobie?
Well, I don't know, Doobie's further over the line than me. Doobie's like, yeah, if I don't like it, then just like
I'm way more incentive than you.
Gouge its eyes out, right?
So I think if it actually tasted better, right, I'd be okay with.
I
like I said, if I went to a dog boil in China, right, and they were boiling a dog. Right, I'd probably want to taste the dog's. Yeah, I'd probably want to taste the dog soup. Right, it probably tastes pretty good. Like, I'd just be curious about it.
That makes me suspect of your empathy.
Even though humans might not be like animals, and they might not empathize.
Not enough to not want them to die.
Like, I don't want anybody to die. I don't want people to die.
Well, you're okay with the fucking boiling dog. That's
but that's not people.
I boil crabs alive. I boil lobsters alive. They're delicious.
I'm also okay. I'm also okay with the industrial rape and slaughter of cows. I don't give a fuck. They're cows. I want steak. I want hamburger.
I know. Yeah.
The thing with Doobie,
all of your moral positions are problematic. So.
Well, the thing with Doobie is that, again, why should Doobie bring all of those animals under more? Because KJ, whenever he says stuff like that, you say like, oh, all of your moral positions are out of order, or you say, why would you? Why doesn't that apply to humans? Doobie creates this special class in his head, which doesn't even encompass dogs.
It's purely class?
Because he would say that he's self-interested and that he doesn't want that stuff to happen.
That's a piss-poor justification.
He's a humanist.
I understand. I just don't agree.
Hold on, Doobie. If they were like
it's a bad justification.
If they were like an underclass of humans that we thought were like culturally appropriate to eat, would you eat those? Would you eat those people?
If it was considered culturally appropriate to eat people, I'd probably think it's okay to eat people, right? So like. Yeah,
that's fucked
up. But then, hold on. No, then so would you, right?
No, I wouldn't. I don't eat meat.
The hypothetical that Spoon just gave me, right, is that it'd be culturally appropriate to eat these people. Right, so then, yeah, I think it's appropriate. You would too.
Yeah. So if it were culturally appropriate, to have slaves, would you have slaves?
Probably.
The reason I asked you this question,
that's fucked up.
Is because it conflicts.
Well, but hold on, KG, hold on. But now I think you're being a little ridiculous because if things are culturally acceptable, then yeah, you'll engage with those practices. going forward into the future, maybe you can look back after your the philosophy of your culture has evolved more to deem certain actions morally reprehensible or whatever. But at the time, yeah. So if it was normal for
if you go back through history, you find people who do not engage in the norms of their culture. They will make claims against the fact. They're outliers. They're outliers. The fact that they exist means that position is possible.
But it would make sense.
You have to figure out. You have to find some other way of evaluating whether or not you take the non-popular position or the popular position. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good.
But just because
wait, hold on, Tubi, 1 second. Some people also think it's culturally appropriate to listen to country music or to eat spicy food. I don't do either of those things. It's fucking disgusting. I don't need to engage
none
with every culturally appropriate thing.
None of those involve the death of anyone else.
But you asked me, right? If it were culturally appropriate to do this thing, would you do it? Probably I would, right? If it's culturally appropriate, I might try it out or something, right? I've tried out country music,
spicy food. It doesn't involve the negation of other rights. It doesn't involve the negation of other rights. I think that's where we're.
Let me finish my line of questioning here, right? So the reason I asked this question is because I knew what Duvi would answer, and it's inconsistent with an earlier position of his, right? Because earlier Duvi said, well, actually, no, I wouldn't want to do that because it may affect me because I'm also a person, right? When he sort of like stealing or killing, right? So in this scenario, if it was culturally acceptable to eat humans, right, that would affect you because you're also a human. So.
Well, okay, but this is why I said I'm further ascended than you are, right? Because now you're asking me to place myself, a human with lots of empathy, right, into another cultural mindset. I'm now Doobie, living in a culture, having been raised in a culture where it's okay to eat humans, right? So now this current Doobie would think it's appropriate sometimes to eat a human, right? So me, not having lived in that culture, would say, hey, no, actually, that sounds like a bad idea. I'm not going to eat human. Right? So
yes, also your moral system in both systems is I don't do things because it's bad for me or affects me poorly. Right, so in the one where eating humans is okay, right? It would affect you poorly.
Debate, man. It depends because if you just say in that society you can eat any person no matter what their nationality is, etc., versus you say you can only eat people from other countries. Well, from other countries or from whatever group. No, I'm not saying. Obviously, I'm saying not saying I agree with this, but I'm just saying even for Doobie, I think it would still be in line with his morality if you added caveats. So like. You could eat people, but they can't belong to your nation. So Doobie wouldn't have to worry about that happening to him unless he fell outside of his borders into another culture where they practice the same ethic. But if if he's a member of the only country that's practicing that ethic, he doesn't have to worry about other members in his society eating him outside of like deranged members of the society who are going to kill him and eat him. But it's still in line with his moral, that Doobie, whatever, Cannibal Doobie's framework.
There are no non-socially constructed values?
I don't think so. There are some situations where I would eat a human, right? I think most of us could be put into a situation where we'd consider consuming another human being. Right? And I think if I visited a country where there was some sort of like ethical way within my moral system, whatever, to try out human meat, I'd probably do it. Just because I'd be curious.
Yeah. Cool, dude.
It wouldn't. I don't.
That's fucked up. I think we should probably just say that's fucked up. I would say that's fucked up.
So again, right? So
you can't think of a situation where you eat another person.
If you
I can. Yep, I can. But it's not the one. It's not the flippancy with which you said it. That's for sure. It'd be a lot fucking more severe than that.
Should I sound more sad when I say that there are situations where I'd eat a human? Yeah, it'd probably be a bad situation.
No, I don't mean you should be more sad. I just think that you should be a little less sanguine about it. I think that the only conditions in which I would think about eating another human being would be shipwrecked or, in a pretty extreme situation where, like, it's really down to the wire. And, and I think
if I were in a ship,
but that's very different than the idea of going back to industrial farming or dare I say hunting, which is what this whole topic was supposed to actually be about.
Yeah, if I were in a shipwreck or stuck on a mountain somewhere in a cabin and my neighbor was like 2 miles away and had no food and I was stuck there for a long time, I'd consider going over and killing him and eating him. Right? I don't think that's that crazy. I think we're concerned with survival. I'd be concerned with my survival. If that's what I had to do, I'd do it.
I don't think it's unreasonable, but I do think it's scary.
Okay. Yeah, it would be a scary situation.
I think it would be kind of scary to have you as a neighbor.
Wait, surely.
I don't think you're a bad dude. I think it'd be scary to have you as a neighbor because get a bad snowfall and who knows when you're coming to the door.
Yeah.
if we imply like the
yeah, he was like, I'm going to. It's like
fucking
he's like
hatchet in hand. He's like, I'm fucking hungry.
right, so like
you know, like he's.
if
Can I
like,
finish this one thing?
Spoons.
sorry, go ahead.
Spoons, finish your point.
So if we apply like the I think it's called the moral imperative to this, like if this is like the correct moral system, i.e. the one that everybody should adhere to, right? Surely, Doobie, this would not be in your interest, right? Because then your neighbor is going to make the same decision, right? And he's going to come over and murder you, and that's certainly not in your interest. Exactly, right? And that's bad, right? You don't want that. It's not in your interests.
Wait, hold on. But in that situation, right, where we're like
right, so what you should do
on a mountainside in the snow or something, with no food, I would expect him to show up at my door at some point and try to eat me. So I do
exactly right. So what you should do is advocate for a society in which we go, when none of us are going to do that because it's in nobody's interest, right? Because we could all be like the one who gets fucked over from this.
Yeah, I hope nobody gets trapped on the mountainside in the snow. Yeah, with no food.
Yeah, but
in that situation, I'd expect whoever I'm with to try to beat me at some point.
If he's advocating for like absolute chaos, like he doesn't want any kind of community, it's just like you're all against me, right? I'm gonna eat you first, motherfuckers.
Man against man.
Well, he wants community outside of like extreme circumstances, right? Because it's the extreme circumstances that cause community to fall apart.
Even outside of that, right?
If you ain't been here, smash that follow button. I'm trying to raise to a hot stream.
I was talking the entire time. You guys can hear me. Hold on. That's not what Doobie was advocating for, though. Doobie was advocating for otherwise normal functioning society. He's saying that when society breaks down, right, like that's him on the mountain, him separated from society. Society has broken down. It's an emergency, and so he is. In that case, there are different rules apply, right?
Yep.
Like
different rules apply.
Yeah.
Society breaks down. Society breaks down. I'd expect all these nice virtue signaling people like KG to be the first ones with the hatchet at my door.
Well, it's
all I do is
Doobie,
virtue
right?
signal. That's for sure.
So there's Cannibal Doobie, and then there's I guess Anchorage Doobie, where he's on a mountainside and it's frozen and there's no food and there's a person next to him, so he's got to eat them while they're still warm before they freeze. But that's an exception. Okay. So there's Anchorage Doobie, Normal Doobie, Cannibal Doobie.
No. And Normal Doobie is the one we want to talk to.
Guys, we're not talking about the Doobie multiverse, okay? So we're going to figure, and to be clear, that is Doobie equals chaos. We all know what Doobie is, so we have to be very clear on that. And two, I'm very sure that Doobie is Doobie, you agree with the Alex Jones mindset, right? Because he admits saying that I'll eat your ass on many different occasions.
I don't agree with Alex Jones about anything, but I'm telling you,
you do about eating your neighbor and pushing him to shove.
Dan, if we were trapped on the mountainside together, I would expect, the first night we ran out of food, right? That if I fell asleep, you'd bash my head in with a rock and eat me, Dan. I would 1,000% expect that because I expect you, Dan, to have some survival like instinct, right? And I'd respect that, and I'd have to bash your head first.
I understand this, Doobie, right?
One, I am familiar with woodworking work to go and just chop a tree down with at least if I had some form of hatchet. And try to make some sort of little slip go down the mountain. And if you want to be behind the mountain and eat your leg, sure. I'm sure. Good luck with that. But at least I'll be doing other things than eating you.
All right.
You're gonna fuck a lot farther if you work together than if you fucking eat your neighbor.
You be saying like this works in his favor. Like this kind of moral system is in his favor, right? And when I say it right, if that is true, if this is like a good moral system, we apply this to everyone. This is a categorical imperative, right? We apply this to everyone. Now everyone behaves like Doobie. Everybody has Doobie's moral system. And under Doobie's moral system, because Doobie's moral system is the correct moral system in this system, right? When things go to shit, right? Things really go to shit. And thus, Doobie, your moral system is non-functioning, right? Because as soon as things get bad, everything goes to hell, which is not in your benefit, right?
This is why I favor a very strong government, very authoritarian government, to make sure that things stay stable, because I understand that when the chips are down, when shit falls apart, when the electricity stops working, when the water stops running, people are going to tear each other
exactly
apart.
right. So let me propose to you.
Okay?
Let me
Human
propose
beings
to you an
only
alternative.
respond to force.
Exactly. Let me propose to you an alternative, Doopy. Right. So this is a much better moral system, right? So in my moral system, we work together. So when things hit the shit, instead of we just literally eating each other like you advocate for, we work together and we either all die or we all survive, which means you've got a much higher chance of survival rather than Dan eats you on a mountainside.
This is what people say right before they stab you in the back. Oh God, we got to work together. We can get through this. And then you wake up and you have like a rock bashing to your face. No, thank you.
I'm sorry that your position on life is that depressing. That is not the case, my friend.
That's the thing, right? Your
Look at the game show Survivor.
You acting like that position, your belief in that is actively negative for you, right? It's like the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah,
the fact that you like rat on the other guy, the fact that you bash his head in with a rock causes distrust, and that distrust in you is bad for you. It's not in your own self-interests.
I want to explore this topic because this part is important, right? With our remaining time. So, like, do we... I mean, I think what DB is saying is not completely illogical. When we're talking about society breaking down, do we acknowledge that within the context of an emergency, right? Like, first of all, you're advocating for Spoon, right? When you say that let's all work together, well, that society's still functioning without the lights on, right? The lights are down, but society's still functioning because we're all cooperating, right?
Yes.
Sure. But he's saying, well, we tried that part, and, you know...
I'm saying you have to cooperate. You have to cooperate until the bitter end, no matter what, right? As soon as you start betraying, right, that's when things, like, that's when it's over.
I think, and Doobie, you can correct me because maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. So if I am, then I apologize. But, like, I think what he's saying is that at the point, especially when, like, it has broken down, when we are stabbing people each other in the back, right? I mean, Doobie would
not get to that point. It cannot get to that point. That's my point. That we should not go down that route. We should not go down that route.
I know. I agree. And I think, well, maybe I'm wrong about this. You, Chris. I desperately want to hear what you have to say too. I think Doobie would also prefer a world where, again, society is still functioning. Right? You just said
you're treating it like it's an inevitability that people start stabbing each other in the back.
I'm not saying that. In fact, I actually have more faith in individuals, right? And that in that point where there is a disaster, that we would actually work together. However, that doesn't mean that things will go to plan. It doesn't mean that people won't get desperate, people won't do stupid shit, right?
We should expel those people. Doobie should be expelled.
Hold on. But look. Is it not? I don't know. Like under the circumstance, like for instance, under wartime circumstances, where like
that sounds like a
really
great premise for a trauma film,
right? Where bombs are dropping, limited resources, and like it's like either you eat now, right, or you never eat. Like you're gonna die. In that situation, does anything change? Does the moral consideration for everything that we do change, or is it just the same? Right? Is it just the same when society is working perfectly functioning? Go to a grocery store and grab some food, right? Or when like planes are dropping bombs, soldiers are going house to house, like killing individuals, right? Like putting people up against the wall. Are the actions there, right? Are they all in the same moral?
I have an answer. Right? So I'm saying it's better that everyone dies than one person lives, right? And that sounds counterintuitive, right?
War is not the case.
So hold on, right? So I think that's better, right? Because in the case that one person lives, what you've done there is allowed for a system of morality which permits like stabbing people in the back. And if you allow that system of morality, which permits stabbing people in the back, the chances of death for the entire of society are much higher than the one where we all work together or we all die, right?
It doesn't account for war.
It does account for war. Like literally in war, like if you're in the trenches with your fucking with all your like comrades, right? And you decide to start stabbing each other in the back because there's no rations, you're gonna fucking die, blah blah blah. You decide to start stabbing each other in the back, right? Then all of you die, Right?
No, okay,
There's only one of you left.
wait, okay.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not the you're talking about soldiers working together for the common cause of defeating the enemy. No, I'm talking about
It's the same principle when it comes to civilians. It's exactly the same principle.
Civilians who don't have the ability to defend themselves, right? Who are facing an enemy that, like in total war, that wants their eradication. And that situation, like the actions that they take, can you judge them the same? Like, we already make this, and we already do this, right? We already understand that soldiers in the line of duty in a war zone need to be judged differently than they would be in an ordinary civilian context. We've already done this in law. Does that not make sense to the rest of you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it does make sense. Like, there's plenty of examples that you bring up, like the siege of Leningrad or Stalingrad, where it's just like where you end up having average civilians literally having to kill or eat a guy just as sake for surviving. There's been cases where it didn't happen, where there's certain scientists that prefer to die than eat a bunch of seeds that were basically collected for survival of the whole entire Russian winter for a different winter and all that. And I mean, there's two ways to that, but definitely that scenario that, as Prime brought up, is for sure will happen in given the situation.
Yeah, to be clear, in a situation where there's like multiple people, right? Like it's we're in a trench somewhere and we're starving. Then I just have to convince the strongest people in the group and me to kill and eat the weakest person in the group, right? Because they're holding us back.
I don't even know if it needs to go that far. I think if you're in the Warhammer trenches and the elves are coming down on you and you have no food or whatever, I think it doesn't have to go as far as all of you guys, this is the weak link, let's kill them and eat them. I think the morality would more likely enact in such a way that if the weakest person dies, you would find it permissible to eat them. I don't necessarily agree that it would by necessity.
Because waiting for them, but to be waiting for them to die means that when they die, you're going to be much weaker that entire period.
Yeah, but
I think everybody else should.
Hold on, I think you're being really dismissive of the fact that you're going to build a relation. Hold on, Dan. I think you're being really dismissive of the fact that you're going to build some kind of relationship with each other because you guys are in the army together or whatever. So I don't think it's so easy. And the same thing exists in society. So it's not so easy to just be like, oh, I'm starving, this person's dying, I'm getting weaker the more I wait for them to die, I gotta kill my best friend right now because I gotta eat them and get my strength back. I don't think it's so trivial I don't think it's going to evolve that way. I don't think that moral system will evolve that way. And I think that is the moral system we have now. In extreme cases, people will do something like that. I don't think most people will react like that, but I do think the moral system we have right now permits that kind of activity. But I think the fact that you build bonds with other people makes it difficult for you to just be like, I'm starving right now. We don't immediately have any food. I don't foresee any food coming in the immediate future. I gotta kill my best friend so that I can eat them and maintain my strength. Like, I just find that I don't think that's gonna happen.
The term, no, it does happen. Like, there's the term of the event I could bring up exactly is like they call it the Attack of the Dead Man, where long story, Austria-Hungary was in war with Russia during World War I, and you have a bunch of Austrian guys stuck in a fort. So all of them eventually end up stuck there, eating each other in the middle of the cold, and then they end up going. Instead, they finally were told to attack, so they end up going out. They looked like zombies. They were called the Attack of the Dead Man, and started trying to eat the Russian soldiers.
How frequent is that, Dan?
Yeah, well, it happens. It happens. It probably happens in other stuff.
Hear from Eucharist. Try Eucharist. You had your hand up previously.
Okay, so on the like survival instinct thing Dewey was talking about, yeah, honestly, I would rather okay, of course I'm speaking in a situation where I'm fed and well clothed. I would rather be eaten than eat another human being. We talk about like survival instincts as if we don't have plenty of examples throughout history of people who would have preferred to sacrifice themselves rather than sacrifice themselves for other people. So I just pulled a book down off my shelf. There's a great book called Courage, The Politics of Life and Limb that talks all about this. That's basically like we have a human history of people who would rather die than sacrifice something about themselves. They would die for other people. This is a common thing. Plenty of fucking people do this. So yeah, so no, maybe right now, thinking about this in terms of my moral calculus, yeah, I don't have that survival instinct. I would rather be eaten than eat another human being. I'd volunteer on that list of people who would be killed and eaten. Sure, fine. And this is actually where literature.
I'd love to be stuck on a mountainside with you.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to support
your
love it. This is actually where I think like literature is really helpful for like dealing with these kind of moral situations, where like it helps us to think through situations that we have not been in ourselves. So like The Road by Cormac McCarthy is exactly about this. It's about a father and son going through a post-apocalyptic wasteland where everybody else has decided to be cannibals, but this family has decided, no, we're going to be